Monza, a fabulous place to go motor racing, and just 3 years away from celebrating its centenary year. They were here racing the year before, the very first 24 hours of Le Mans, in fact. In 1922, this place broke ground, and they've been racing here ever since then. Welcome to the Michelin Lamont Cup then, the second race of the year for the 2019 season, after that kicked off last month at Circuit Paul Ricard in the south of France. We're about 10 miles north of Milan in northern Italy, and so far the weather is okay. It is overcast. There has been some rain between right now and the earlier qualifying sessions for the Michelin Lamont Cup, but forecast is not great for the near future. We'll wait to see the extent of the rainfall in the next 2 hours. We are about 15 minutes away from race start, and I'm delighted that you could join both me, Johnny Palmer, and Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com. The grid empty at the moment, but about to be flooded with 30 plus cars. Here they come, in fact, down the back straight, Graham.
Yeah, and it's the, well, now familiar mix, great mix it is too, of GT3 cars. We have 10 of them here for this weekend, and 20 LMP3 cars. This, the 20th race meeting in the Le Mans Cup, Michelin Lamont Cup, previously the GT3 Cup, of course, in the history of this, short history of this series, and it just goes from strength to strength, Johnny Palmer. The 30-car grid we have for this visit to Monza. Top 14 of those cars will be the LMP3s. Then we get into the quickest of the GTs. They fill positions 15 through 18. Then a mixed bag to the back of the grid. It's going to be another corker, I think. It was a fantastic qualifying session. Again, tiny margins between the classes.
Yeah, incredibly tight indeed. We'll look into those in a moment or two. But sort of fitting that we're back in Italy for the 20th race weekend for this category, because it started in 2016 at Imola, and then ever since then has been at Monza. This is year 3 then of Michelin Lamont Cup visiting this part of the world. Still to come, 2 races at Le Mans, each of an hour duration, Thursday morning and Saturday morning of the big race next month, and then 2-hour races at Barcelona in Spain, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and the Algarve circuit in the south of Portugal, not far from Faro. Aston Martin from Beach Dean Racing then working its way through the Parabolica, and that is the brand new spec GT3 Aston Martin, the Vantage AMR, qualified earlier on by Andrew Howard.
Those sharp-eyed viewers will notice safety car here is an Aston Martin Vantage as well, that courtesy of Aston Martin backing the historic racing series that supports the LMS and Michelin Le Mans Cup here. They've just completed their first race of the weekend, and it was the fabulous Lola Aston Martin that took that win. 5 minutes board is due out in about 8 minutes time, but a packed grid.
Yes. Still
cars joining on the back of that. And this is fast becoming a real huge support to the LMS package. We're seeing year on year the right things happening, teams and drivers graduating to the full European series. But recovery this year, particularly in the GT class. Krypton Motorsport, number 35, Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3, third on the grid in the GT3 class. Zanettini will start this car, 17th overall on the grid. Bibendum there.
But the thing is, Zanettini, yes, third on the grid, only 42 thousandths of a second away from pole position. So it is that margin separating the top 3, half a second for the top 5, and a little more than a second for the top 7.
You want to talk about margins, though. Fabien Laverne had the qualifying session a little earlier this afternoon. 7 thousandths of a second he was off, with 2 more flying laps to come. Then it was 4 thousandths, then it was 3 thousandths. That is consistency. Yep. And he was a stand-up performer last time around. Who's to say, second on the grid in the GT standings, that Luzic Racing won't be in amongst it here. With this, the pole-sitting car in GT3, Pianazzola and Piccini. And this, the number 8 car, 15th overall in the grid, but the lead of the 10 GT3 cars we have here this afternoon. Now, I've not been out of the commentary booth, Johnny. What is the weather doing just at the moment?
Well, when I left about half an hour or so ago, left our booth, it was spitting and spotting with rain. That then seemed to ease, but there is a chill in the air. There's a little bit of wind around, as you can tell from the flags on the grid, and that's potentially taking the nasty weather from earlier on away from us or bringing more dark clouds towards Monza. There were, earlier on in the week, thunderstorms predicted for Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. I think a question of when that weather will arrive rather than if. Are the difficulties at Cool Racing in getting that door closed on the number 74 car? I think it's been done now, and that is the Maurice Smith started Cool Racing car from 12th on the grid. So the GT3s will occupy 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th, and then there's a sprinkling of them further back down the grid as well. But quite a lot of overlap with LMP3s as far down as 28th position. Christian Olsen will start that number 14 RLR M Sport car then from 2 from the back. The first 14 cars on the grid are all the prototypes though, and then right behind them, as I say, the first 4 GT3s. Again,
a little bit of a mix and match, particularly Christian Olsen, notably the quicker of the 2 drivers in the RLR M Sport car. The other driver is his father, Tom, qualified the car as the bronze-rated man at the wheel of the 14.
So it's the bronze that has to qualify it, but the bronze then doesn't necessarily have to start the race, and there is a decision for each of the teams to make.
So expecting to see Christian Olsen make pretty rapid progress up this order. This is
That's
the 39,
fun to watch.
Absolutely, 39 Graf Racing car, top 10. Adrian Chiller will start this car. And of course, whilst all the cars in both classes shot with Michelin rubber, there is a real battle of the chassis here between the Norma runners. And I think it's fair to say, Johnny Palmer, we expected that to be a Norma on pole. We'll get to, well, the spoiler in the plots a little later. But Norma versus Ligier. Norma, many feel here, if the weather stays dry, will have the advantage, very much an advantage in straight line speed.
And for the previous supporting race, you can hear the national anthem for the winning team and driver, in fact. But we concentrate on the race to come. Mark Crader installed in the number 20 Grain Market Racing car, ready to take the start from 9th position then. That's a car that he shares with Alex Mortimer, another Norma.
And there's Alex sitting on the side pod of the grey car. Garrett Grist from United Autosports on the grid.
So Garrett not scheduled to be starting his car, so we'll get in at roughly half distance. And by the way, it's not technically, we discussed this at Paul Ricard, not technically a pit lane window. There sort of is, because it's dictated by drive time. Each driver, regardless of grading from the FIA, regardless of whether you're bronze, a gold or a silver, you have to do a minimum of 55 minutes. And sensibly, you know, you either get your driver out after that 55 minutes or push on to 65 minutes to ensure that driver 2 then does 55 minutes. So there is sort of a loosely coined pit lane window from 55 to 65, but we saw that not breached, but different ways of doing it in the south of France, which got us thinking.
Absolutely. Now, also just noticed there the other father-son combo, that was Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. staring intently at his father aboard their AT racing car. That car is in 11th position overall. CD Sports Norma here. And some of these drivers, these teams, you would expect to see European Le Mans Series and perhaps even the FI World Endurance Championship moving forward. Gerard Neveu, the man at the top of LMEM, the organisation behind the WEC, the LMS and indeed the Michelin Lamont Cup. Race organisers here. Number 9 car, Graf Racing, 6th on the grid. And it will be Eric Drillier, I think, to start this car. Let's just double check that. It is indeed.
Yes, that's what it says on my sheet, from 6th position, sharing with Adrien Trullier, Eric's son. And
so 3 father-son combos.
Yes, there are, absolutely. It's catching, isn't it? And a lot of the time that's the son getting involved initially and saying, hey, Dad, this is a great championship. Why don't you take part as well? We've seen that in a different vein with the Brundles as well, haven't we? Alex Brundle discovering VLN at the Nordschleife in Germany and getting Martin back into a racing car a winning racing car.
Absolutely. Villain 7 looks like it will be a racing wing weekend where Alex's dad will indeed be there that weekend. Not here this weekend, but Alex is.
Not a million miles away in Barcelona, though. The 5 car, DKR Engineering, Marcello Marittiotto. Then to start this machine after he performed well in qualifying earlier on today. That car starting from 5th position and just behind the sister car, number 3.
Yeah, pogoed up and down the order, didn't it? The number 5 car was one of the several LMP3 cars caught out by track limits violations in the early part of the session.
Marco Cencetti to share that machine. Here is the number 3 then. And in this livery, the number 3 car has won all of the LMP3 championships so far on offer in the Michelin Lamont Cup through the years, last year and in 2017. A thumbs up there from Francois Kerman, who starts the number 3 car from 4th on the grid.
Tight qualifying session and really left us guessing right till the end. Kessel Racing crew, a happy band with cars aplenty, both in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, plus 2-car entry now in the ELMS. They'll be going to Le Mans as well with 2 cars in the GT AM class. Mikey Benham will be aboard the 25 car from Landon Racing.
Championship leaders, let us not forget, 6 points the advantage at the moment for Duncan Tappy and Mike Benham over Francois Kerman and Laurence Hurst. So they are the top 2 in the championship, sharing the second row.
Well, it seems that teams have got confidence we're not going to get wet conditions early on in this race at the very least.
So yes, the wet weather tyres are being pushed away from the cars for the moment. They'll be kept in the pit lane, I'm sure, though. But you have to go, generally speaking, with the current conditions. So slick Michelin tyres, the only choice.
Colin Noble stands by the car. That means Tony Wells is aboard the number 2 Nielsen Racing car. Another team to switch to the Norma M30 for this season. It seems to suit both of these drivers.
3rd place finish for that crew at Paul Ricard. So within touching distance of the championship in its very early days.
Tony in very good form, but Colin Noble, in form of his life, elected to the British Racing Drivers Club last week. And that badge seems to make him just a little bit quicker. The surprise package, though, in qualifying, Johnny, I think it's fair to say, Kia Racing, the number 43 car, Jochen Fried, just pulled it out of seemingly nowhere. Nico Lapierre on the grid. He'll be there supporting Cool Racing, but not racing in this series, of course. He's in the European Le Mans Series, having set a record 5th pole position since the relaunch of the championship with LMP2 as the principal class, and did so for his brand new team in only their 2nd race in the class. Remember, it goes into the Le Mans 24 Hours this year with, again, in the Signatech Alpine for that race, with 100% winning record in LMP2. He's won 3 times at Le Mans in his 3 starts in LMP2.
Well, that is fabulous form to take into the race of the year.
I thought for a moment that was a proposal, but no, I think he's just making sure the bracelet's on.
We could have got an exclusive there.
We could.
So whipping through the grid at the bottom of the screen, Adrian Schiller and Mark Crader on row 5. These are all LMP3s, as I've mentioned. Then it'll be the Morris Smith and Alexander Talkanitsa driven Cool Racing and AT Racing prototypes. And row 7 also all prototypes, all United Autosports indeed, with Mike Gwash and Rob Hodes to take the starts in those cars. Then we get to the GT3s on row 8. So Sergio Pianizzella in his Kessel Racing Ferrari alongside Lusick Racing. New to ACO rules racing at the start of the year, but they have stamped their authority certainly on the European Le Mans Series race, and Fabien Laverne will be one to watch in this one without a doubt. Krypton Motorsports Mercedes AMG, though, also in the mix with Zanettini to start that car ahead of Paolo Venerossi's Ebby Motors number 88 Porsche. A view again of the number 25 Norma that will start from 3rd position with Benham at the wheel. And we've already had a look, of course, at Tony Wells and at Michael Markerson, who will start the Kia Racing car. So they've elected to put the other driver at the wheel. It was Joachim Fried, as Graham said, that did the time, but the more experienced driver, Michael Markerson of Denmark, silver rated, driving this opening stint for the Ligier. He's going to have a job on his hands to keep behind him 6 Norma M30s that are incredibly strong. this weekend at Monza, particularly down the long straights.
Clearly looking to capitalise on the clear road they will have at the head of the field, at least momentarily. Let's wait and see what the run down to the always challenging first chicane here is going to bring. They fire up the V8 engines at the front of the grid and a variety of engines at the back. Nice mixed bag this season of GT3 cars. Lamborghini, AMG, the Aston Martin, Ferrari, Porsche.
Just looking down further towards the GT3 field, Mauro Calamia, I noticed, has been installed into the number 7 Scuderia Viorba Corsa Mercedes. So that was qualified by Roberto Pampanini, the orange, sort of copper-coloured and black Mercedes AMG, but it has silver-rated driver Calamia doing the opening stint, so he could make early progress. Paolo Benarossi, as I say, to start the Eddie Motors machine, so we'll hand over to Alessandro Baccani at roughly half distance, but they could have gone either way at Eddie Motors, employing 2 bronze-rated drivers in car number 88.
Well, this is going to be an engaging couple of hours here, Johnny. Will weather intervene, or are we going to get 2 hours of dry running? Of course, remember, for very many of these crews, a Pro-Am lineup as well. So lots of pretty familiar names to come. In addition to the developing talents of a lot of the gentlemen drivers.
So, at the moment, the weather dry. I'm just trying to seek out a forecast for the next couple of hours. It's going to keep people guessing. There's some blossom in the air, by the way, as well, so don't confuse that with rain. That's been floating around, or snow, because that's been floating around all day. Snow is possible at Spa just 7 days ago, so why not here at Monza? But so far so good.
The pit lane reporter Louise Beckett knows all about that, and she's just about thawed out after the travails of the Spa 6 hours last weekend. Extraordinary weather there. I don't think we're going to get anything remotely close to that here. I hope not. But Spa looking fabulous, by the way, in the spring.
The Reggia chicane and down towards the 2 Lesmos, second of which very important indeed, about your exit speed down through Seraglio corner, curve of Seraglio, and then the approach to the Ascari chicane, a technical left-right-left sequence, and very important not to run too wide on the exit there, because track limits have been closely observed all weekend and many laps deleted during the qualifying session earlier on. Yes, on my weather radar there's bits of red and orangey colours just north of us, I think possibly heading this way. So we will keep our eyes on the skies, and the teams will do exactly that as well. Showers predicted at some stage over the next couple of hours, but I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as thunderstorms. We'll wait and see the intensity of that rain if and when it arrives. So Ligier on the front, and that was a surprise to me, certainly, after the dominance of Norma through free practice 1 and 2. But there are 6 Normas then bunched up behind Michael Markusson for Kio Racing. Then the next of the Ligiers is Jacopo Barato for BHK Motorsport, the dark blue coloured car with the orange detailing. Grain Market Racing starting 9th, Mark Crader, and Adrian Schiller in the second best of the Graf cars, number 39 in 10th. That car did a time that would have been good enough for 3rd late on, and then it was deleted. So Adrian Schiller maybe in a bit of a false position as this race is about to start.
Field is getting neat and tidy, just the last few cars in the order there, doing a little bit of weaving around. We can see the number 99 car in the hands of Andrew Howard, just getting the last bit of heat into his Michelin tyres as the Jaguar leading car comes round to Parabolica, and then we'll pull over to the pit lane, and it will be down to Markusson to control the field before the lights go green, Johnny.
And this is a long wait, not only down the back straight, but also all the way through Parabolica, and then the run to the timing line as well. They'll be asked to continue this sort of speed until the lights go out above the timing line, and it will test the patience, I'm sure, of those cars on the front row. Although the pace is already starting to pick up. The pace car has peeled off to the right then and down pit lane now, and Michael Markussen, left to his own devices to just dictate this speed. He can't go quite yet. The red lights are still on in the distance then. Tony Wells alongside. Mikey Benham eager to get going, as is Francois Kerman, but the wait is endless. In a moment, the lights will go out, and they do. We're racing for the second time this year in the Michelin Lamont Cup. Then 2 hours of racing around Monza, and already starting to make some movement into perhaps third position is Kerman. So he's hanging on to that third place. Going backwards is Michael Benham. There's a puff of smoke from the 25 as well. Will everybody get through the chicane for the first time into the Rettifilo? It's a natural pinch point. They're very well behaved so far. Two abreast through the right and the left-hand elements. And so far every car remains on the track. Can't talk about the GT3s because we're focusing on the LMP3s for the moment in time. But through Curva Grande for the first time, it's a good start for certainly Fabien Leverne, who's got ahead of Sergio Pianazzola in GT3.
Cracking stuff there. 23 wide, I think I counted at one point there.
And Mauro Calamia up to second place in class. I told you to look out for him.
Fantastic stuff. Was very neat and tidy for the most part, certainly for the first 2/3 of the grid. A little bit of locking up towards the back of it. Let themselves out on this first lap. But a great start from Kia Racing. Took the defensive line into that first chicane. That worked for them while the Norma squabbled behind.
So neat and tidy stuff. Through the two Lesmos they go, and down towards Thoralio corner, and then the braking for Ascari next up. The battle is between Michael Markussen and Francois Kerman, who started, remember, in fourth position, gained 2 places already, jumping ahead of Tony Wells and ahead of Mikey Benham.
Oh, big switch from Mikey Benham as he came through
Benham,
there.
Yeah. That's well rescued, actually, and the track's still relatively green. As I say, we have had some rain between qualifying for the ELMS and this race. Only a small amount, but the grip might not necessarily be there in the early stages. So tippy-toe stuff for 1 or 2. The first lap of the 2-hour race will be led then by Michael Markussen. But there's really nothing between Markussen of Denmark and Francois Kerman for DKR Engineering, the Frenchman.
Through to complete the first lap they come. Still Markussen, just a quarter of a second ahead. We got yellow flags briefly back at turn 11. They've just disappeared again. And that, I think, was Christoph Ulrich falling off the track for just briefly, but I think he's recovered the car, drops to the back of the field. Through the first chicane again, the Kia Racing car manages to get through what is actually the weakest point for this car. So he's back into a slightly happier hunting ground for the Ligier chassis. Needs to put a bit of distance between himself and the DKR car of Francois Kerman. Trouble, and that looked like damage to the front right of the 54 car.
Yeah, which is the Mercedes, and it looked like maybe an inner wheel arch that had come loose on the Dexter Muller driven car, the SPS Automotive Performance machine, which is now tumbling to the rear of our timing screen. It will be stone last, I think, if Christoph Ulrich gets ahead, which he does. So Dexter Muller, who was in the top 5 in GT3, has had a moment. I don't think there was another car involved, or at least that other car, if there was one, hasn't been too badly delayed.
Yeah, need to look and see whether or not anybody else, because there was certainly damage to the front of one car. There's the commensurate damage to the rear of another. And was that barrier induced? We'll wait and see.
Also, maybe some loose bodywork on the 39 car of Adrian Schiller. It looked like maybe the right-hand pod bouncing around, which holds the race number. Grab another look at that in a moment or two. It does tend to rattle the teeth out of your head, the Ascari chicane, if you catch the curbs at the wrong point. The number 9 car, though, heading through the Parabolica, all intact so far. That's being driven by Eric Trouillet Senior. And 4th place is a good starting position for that car. Nobody's really getting away here.
No.
Michael Markussen being tracked with every inch of this Monza circuit by Francois Kerman, and that may well help Tony Wells to draw in as well.
Mikey Benham looking to make a move up the inside of the second of the DKR cars. Maritiotto, though, not keen to let that happen. It's a battle for 6th position, and actually took 6th across the line. Can he hold it through the chicane? We'll see in just a few moments.
Mauro Calamia slightly badly balked there by the number 90 car. Then all of a sudden Alexander Taukanitsa Jr. finds the extra speed that an LMP3 car has, but they were neck and neck through the chicane, and the initial acceleration was better for the Mercedes. So they almost made contact exiting Rettifilo chicane on that lap.
I wonder if the other car involved, by the way, was Christian Olsen, because he's tumbled down the order as well. Doesn't look as if the SPS car has moved from that position as it made its way around to the pits. We'll wait and see. Timing screen giving us a couple of false readings at the moment.
Yes. In regard to the location of that car, certainly. Still virtually nose to tail for the race lead between the Kia Racing Ligier and the DKR Norma. And then there's still 5 Normas stacking up behind. Tony Wells, Eric Trier, Adrian Schiller, Mikey Bennett and Marcello Manatiotto for DKR again. And those two were side by side down the back straight last time around. It's now Benham ahead of the all-green DKR entry. Lusick Racing still leading GT3. Fabien Laverne ahead of Mauro Calamia. Calamia romping up the order from the early qualifying position. The 7 machine starting from 22nd, now 14th overall.
You saw Christoph Ulrich dropping down the order. There's an instant between his number 51 Ferrari and the 35 AMG from Krypton Motorsports. It's at some way ahead of it now in the 18th position and 4th in class, under investigation by race control right now.
Swinging right, swinging left for Michael Markussen to start another lap. 5 minutes of the race already done, and so far that Kia Racing Ligier is able to keep the pace with the best of the Normas. And Markussen the silver. The acid test will be when co-driver and qualifying driver Joachim Fried takes that car over, but there's a bit of a gap emerging now between 2nd and 3rd as they reach the Rogia chicane.
That comes courtesy of fastest laps initially for the leader and then immediately afterwards for the 2nd place car, separated by just 100th of a second on their fastest lap times last time. That mark now held by Kierman with a 1:49.675.
Reaching the Lesbos for the 4th time, and now the run through the trees, underneath the bridge and back into that natural amphitheatre at the Ascari Variante. And still the incident 35.51 being investigated. The race start was being investigated as well, but that's just a matter of course, tends to be. There's still something moving on the side of the number 39 car, but I wonder whether that's been a problem since the start of the race. Something not quite in position there, and can't be helping the handling for Adrian Schiller. The start of the race, amazingly, was very clean, although the field wasted no time at all, going 3 abreast, then 4 abreast in places. And what about Mauro Calamia charging his way through the order in the copper-coloured Mercedes, wasting no time at all. He was on the grass as well in the background there, on the charge into the Rettifilio. So maybe a question about track limits as to how he got up to 2nd position, but you can't knock his enthusiasm. The 51 spinning, was that Kerber Grande or the first of the Lesbos?
That was, I think, the incident that likely involved the 35, and that was the incident with 2 other cars. Certainly Christian Olsen's car was involved there as well.
Already off track when a sideways SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes came towards the first chicane at completely the wrong angle, nearly cleaned out some of those marker posts that protect the runoff route, and sideways and briefly back onto the track again, so everyone did well to avoid Dexter Muller.
Yeah, so quite exactly what led to that incident we didn't see, but the full white nose on the front of the RLR car was off the track too. There was a 3rd car, I didn't quite spot which one that was, Johnny, that was also running along the escape road. The 54 car has stopped. Christian Olsen is recovering back up through the GT field. He's back up to 25th position, but last in LMP3 right now. Quick lap still coming. It's a 1:49.047 now from the leader, Markussen. There's Christian Olsen. He's getting stuck into the last at the moment of the GTs he's got to play with. That's EB Motors car, takes another position.
Paolo Venerossi, that is, in the 88. And the 51 is coming back through the order.
It is, yeah. Olsen's next target, by the way, is John Schaumann in the number 4 Cool Racing car. In fact, there's 2 Cool Racing cars ahead of him, so we'll keep an eye on his progress.
Well, Christoph Ulrich just got ahead of Andrew Howard on this lap, and Christian Olsen, as you say, now ahead of Paolo Venerossi, who is 5th in class, but that change for 6th in the GT3s puts a Spirit of Race Ferrari ahead of a Beechdean Aston Martin.
New fastest lap this time goes to the 3rd place car, and Tony Wells is beginning to close that gap to the lead too. It's a 1:48.732. Takes a couple of tenths out the 2 leading cars ahead. He's 1.747 seconds back as they cross the line to start lap 6. 1 hour and 50 minutes to go.
Bit of a look at the inside, that time into the first chicane from Mikey Benham in the 25 Landon Racing Norma, and he's got ahead of him then Adrian Schiller. There is, it's the mirror on the side. It's the whole pod, in fact.
It is the pod. It's the front.
Shaking around.
It's the front part of the pod, isn't it?
For 39, so that's going to hamper Adrian Schiller's pace without a doubt. Look at the car behind the 25. That's how it should be. Much more a fixed position. And I've seen it rattling around every time through the Ascari chicane. Well, this time, without a doubt, it's working its way looser and looser potentially, and that might have to be addressed come the pit stop.
Could well be a meatball flag for that car. There's a technical issue that race control decide needs to be attended to. We'll keep an eye on that one. Meantime, Markussen is pulling away now, 8/10 up. We'll see again. There you go.
Huge movement. It's the whole wheel arch pretty much, which also encompasses the headlight area and the dive plane as well. I hadn't realised that was all one bit. Obviously the nose fits on there as well, but doesn't wrap around the whole of the car, so there are potentially two components there that need to be seen to. When these cars stop, which can be anywhere between 55 minutes and 65 minutes, although of course there's a mandatory stop to be done, and that has to be done to a minimum pit stop time. That doesn't have to be your stop between 55 and 65, as we discovered at Paul Ricard. It's just the driver change that needs to be done then.
New fastest lap goes to the lead car, number 43, very briefly, because that's bettered by 0.3 of a second by the charging Tony Wells. 1.3 seconds now he is behind the leader. It's becoming a three-car race very quickly now.
And Sergio Pianazzola offering some sort of a response to Mauro Calamir's speed here. Pianazzola certainly out of line there to put a bit of doubt into Calamir's mind.
Very strong on the brakes there from the Ferrari man.
That's where he's gaining all the time on the Mercedes. I don't think that was ever a full-blooded move to do an overtake, but just the distraction of him being there, and that will have thrown Mauro Calamir a bit of a distraction, certainly into the braking area. So next time around, or maybe even at the second chicane, the Ferrari's going to be close enough. Not quite. Certainly at the end of this lap, back into the Rettifilo, there'll be an opportunity for that metallic blue Ferrari.
Ahead of them, Rob Hodes under pressure from Alexander Talkanitsa Senior. Pace at the front of this race, running wide there, both the GT cars.
Was out of Lesmo 1 into 2, the more important of the two right-handers, and then the long run towards the Ascari chicane. We're approaching 15 minutes of this race then, getting into a rhythm now, and Michael Markussen enjoying a 1.7 second lead over Francois Kerman, Tony Wells, Eric Trier and Adrian Schiller, although walking wounded car for Adrian Schiller with that front right side bodywork bouncing around. Landon Racing and Mikey Benham now just 0.3 of a second behind. Marcello Malattiotto is in 7th position in car number 5 and crossing the line now. And then in his wheel tracks, Giacomo Barato for BHK Motorsport.
Shift in the emphasis in that lead battle, getting away a little now, Markussen. Tony Wells, though, is getting closer and closer to Kierman in a battle now for second place. So the Ligier getting away, 1.7 seconds clear now. And just less than a second back from Kierman is Tony Wells.
Time's very respectable up and down the order as well.
Very much so.
PBs, certainly from the middle section of the field. So Fabien Laverne finding time every lap. Likewise, Mauro Calamir in his Mercedes, Sergio Pianazzola in the Ferrari. They're going quicker with every single lap as further incident now being looked into. So it was 54 and the 14 car.
Christian Olsen. It was Christian Olsen. I suspect I think the third car was just basically avoiding the melee. So I'm sure we'll hear later from Christian.
Yeah.
But damage to the front of one car at a point where you've got heavy braking sort of begins to tell at least part of the tale.
They started on the same side of the grid. The 54 Mercedes was 24th, the RLR M Sport Christian Olsen car 28th. So from 12th and 14 rows, but on the left side. And maybe that concertina effect into the first chicane. We didn't see the incident, so we can't really comment. But it is going to be looked into by the race officials, who have access to far more cameras than we do.
Lots
and angles,
of cameras.
Indeed, angles of that incident, many of them.
Move up the inside there. The 30 car goes through on the 74.
Jack Wolf.
That's for 9th position overall.
On Norris Smith. So CD Sport now ahead of Cool Racing for 9th place.
Mark Crader fancies a bit of that as well. He's up the inside too of the Cool Racing car. Can he make it stick though as they come down the start-finish straight? Norma should have the advantage. Through on the 39 car, Mikey Benham makes up a place up to 5th. So after that tricky start for Mikey Benham, plays the classic Monza move up the inside into the first chicane. Nowhere for the Grafman to go. Tries to fight back around Curva Grande. No way through there.
That is a classic sort of block overtake, in that you brake as late as possible, prevent the car on your outside from turning in, and that is move gained. But it's all about being brave on the brakes there, knowing that you will just about make the corner and squeezing through. The gap was there though, and I still think Adrian Schiller is struggling with the performance of that car now for obvious reasons. Yeah,
the SPS car that was involved in that incident, clearly involving Christian Olsen, that sent both of them to the back of the field, and the 54 car out of the race. Car 54 reported to the stewards for dangerous driving on lap 2. Christian Olsen, meanwhile, after that issue, is now back into the top 20. His next target, Charlie Martin, in the number 11 Racing Experience car.
So lap 2 will have been the lap after the incident, won't it?
That was the incident. It was lap 2. It wasn't at the start. It was coming through after having completed the first lap.
So we'd done the first lap.
Lap 2.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. Sorry, I'd misremembered that. Right, fair enough. There seemed to be some power in the 54 car though, because it was straightening up and finding the track again, but now still displayed as stopped on our timing screen and 7 laps down. I think that is going to be a card out of the race, sadly.
Olsen, meanwhile, is getting close to lap record pace as the 90 car goes up the inside of 23. We've been watching that. That is Talkenica Senior, Alexander Talkenica Senior up the inside of Rob Hodes. 13th position.
And in the background, Mauro Calamir kicking up some dust there as he dropped a wheel over the white line and virtually into the gravel trap there, the very edges of the gravel trap on the exit of the Parabolica. So the dive from the number 90 car of Talkenica to gain a space, although he was all over the grass as he did so. I think wheels just the right side. Problems further.
23. That is 23
Hose again, isn't it? Well, they haven't touched it, or they didn't touch at Parabolica, did they? Then make contact. He's gone for the move in return and didn't make contact, but spun on his own.
Yes, power
unfortunately.
Down.
So that was the exit of the first chicane.
From a classic overtaking move at Monza to a classic mistake made at Monza. Very often, very difficult place to get the power in as early as you really want to get fired round to Curva Grande. Rob Hodes found to his cost.
Yeah.
But he hadn't got that one right, I'm afraid.
Catching the first sausage curve, and whether that unbalanced the car, and then as he applied the throttle on the exit, had one wheel on the grass, and the car switched ends very quickly indeed. Now it's going to be all about cleaning those Michelin tyres up as quickly as possible, as the damaged Christian Olsen machine, and it's missing, I've just noticed, one of the rear bullets. Those wedges that sit right behind the rear wheel.
There was obvious damage on the rear left of that car. You can see it sticking up at the back there.
Yeah.
Might have to be fixed at the pit stop, if not before.
That's the sort of door wedge that should be virtually ground level, which has flicked back now and is almost troubling the rear wing.
Yeah, it's got a fired up young Dane though, haven't we? That's all the way with Charlie Martin now. This is now the battle for 17th position. So he's making rapid progress up the order. Fastest lap goes again, by the way, to Moggs in the lead. Into the 47s now, on 47.795, and the lead over 2 seconds. But this is the 14 car in the hands of Christian Olsen, looking for a way past the 11 Race Experience car with Charlie Martin at the wheel.
Actually, I think the whole of that legality panel and the door wedge has gone, and it's the kind of rear portion of the wheel arch now that is rippling back and causing extra downforce. It drops back into position when they're at slower speed, but you can guarantee when they get to Curva Grande and up to full speed it'll flick back again. Getting a really good run on Charlie Martin though is Christian Olsen this time as they head for Curva Grande, pretty much flat through this long right-hander and then to the braking area for the second of the chicanes. Now, is there an opportunity for Christian Olsen to overtake the racing experienced car? He jinks out of line.
It's a great run from Christian Olsen, I have to say. This is a very strong drive indeed by the young Dane. Came to the Michelin Lamont Cup and the European Le Mans Series last year with a background in historic Formula 3 racing. In fact, the reigning FIA historic Formula 3 champion of Europe. Races in that formula with his dad, Tom, who's sharing the car in the Michelin Le Mans Cup with him. Team leader this year with the RLM Sport car. We've got notice of drive-through penalties, Johnny, for 4 cars. It's the 39, that's the Graf car. As we see movement here between the 51 car, and that wasn't a touch to the Krypton car. 39
Almost.
is Graf, 74 is one of the cool racing cars, isn't it? That's the 11th place car of Maurice Smith. The 24 car, which is Mike Gouache's United Autosports car, and the 7. That is the second placed car in GT. Bad news then for Scuderia Villorba Corsa and their hopes of taking a win on home ground with their AMG GT3.
Mara Calamia has just set the fastest lap of the race for the GT3 category with a 150.4, but he's going to have to come into the pit lane to serve a drive-through penalty. Likewise, Michael Markussen now doing the fastest lap of the race, a 147.7.
That damaged the rear of Christian Olsen's car. I think is going to have to be dealt with, and he's on pit lane. There he is now. The team go to work. They've got one of the 2 racing essentials. You can see the race tape. There's the hammer there as well.
The problem is there's nothing really to attach it to.
It's pot riveted, riveting it with tie wraps. They're the other. That's the backup toolkit after the hammer and the tape.
Well, drill a couple of holes in it, put the tie wrap through, and then you think, right, what do we strap this to then, boys? Because part of the rear diffuser's no longer there, and as I say, the bullet, the door wedge shaped thing that sits behind the rear wheel normally isn't there either, so that's obviously fallen off the car in the process of the contact down at the first chicane. First and second separated by 1.4 seconds then between Michael Markussen, the fastest driver out there at the moment, compared to Francois Kerman for DKR Engineering. Then it's Tony Wells for Nielsen Racing ahead of Eric Trier and Mikey Benham, and in GT3 Fabien Laverne continues to lead.
Great run from the front from Markussen in the Kia racing car. Big surprise to see a Ligier on pole here. A racetrack that supports a car that likes straight line speed. The RLRM Sport team working furiously to get that car out as quickly as possible. Tie wrap, it's something of a kind of maelstrom of tie wrappery going on there. Meantime, through the Blossom.
Yeah. So, again, an indication of how blustery it is in places around this racetrack, particularly on the run down towards the Ascari, which is almost like a tunnelled section, no roof, but the Armco barrier closes in from left and from right, and you head underneath the road bridge as well into Ascari corner. And the Lamborghini versus Porsche battle then is for 7th and 8th in class. Paolo Venerossi just ahead of Cedric Mézard, and an early stop, or the drive-through I should say, for Mauro Calamia has just been served. Pro from 2nd place in class, he falls to 3rd, and that could be further down. I'm not sure about that actually. Christoph Ulrich, whose move on Marco Zanettini was for position, he almost lost the car through the Parabolica, but 51 round the outside of 35, backed and forced. However, for United Autosports,
Gouache's second problem.
Second chicane.
Gets the car back underway.
It was at the second of the chicane, so the left and the right bit, as the battling continues between Venerossi and Mézard for 7th in GT3. And this is allowing Andrew Howard just to open up a little bit of a gap now from these 2 cars behind him.
Just to let you know that the RLRM Sport team are still working to repair the rear of Christian Olsen's car. Race effectively done, I'm afraid, for any meaningful position. This is about getting the car back out there. Like Gouache goes back, by the way. Charlie Martin up to 14th position, now 12th in LMP3, with Gary Hauser still to come. No, it's David Hauser, sorry, isn't it?
This is David Hauser this weekend. Did I miss a message about then the Christian Olsen car having to come into the pits? It was their choice.
I think it was. Oh, blimey, yes.
Contact Mike Gouache into the back of the 8 car, which was running. It's still running 2nd in GT3, but does that mean damage now for Sergio Pianezzola? And this earlier on as well for the 88 and the 83 jostling for position into Rettifilo. But I'm now concerned about the back of that Ferrari, number 8, which is running in second position, 5.7 seconds away from Laverne's Ferrari. But do we have to look out for a notable drop-off in pace now for Pianazzola?
Keep an eye on that one. Certainly at the moment, no sign of that happening immediately.
That's good.
It doesn't take much, does it, to just get a little bit of body work, a little bit of carbon.
Also into the pits is Mike Gwash now for a drive-through penalty, and he's going to tumble down the order too.
That's one of the cars pinged for jump start, wasn't it?
Right. And well, there might be worse to come for Mike Gwash.
That is not Ligier presented as the maker intended, but might have to be good enough if they're going to get Christian Olsen back out into the race.
Very different angles to approach the second chicane for Claudius Adanovic and for Maurice Smith. So this is the Spirit of Race entry, number 55, and then with the green door mirrors behind, number 74 of Cool Racing. Maurice Smith certainly with some good speed. Ligier on Ligier here through the Lesmo 1 and now Lesmo 2. And then quite a bit of curb taken from both towards the kink at Serralio corner underneath the trees. And this portion of the track, if it does rain at any point in the next 94 minutes, will be the slowest in getting dry again, because there are overhanging trees there and can be very treacherous in the wet. But so far so good as far as the weather is concerned. We've got another 4 minutes to do before 30 minutes can be ticked off.
Good news, bad news for the RLRM Sport team. The good news is Christian Olsen is back underway with a rather battered rear end of the 14 car, rather cobbled together. The bad news, there is the car back on track. Bad news is he's lost 3 laps to the leaders as a result of the 2 incidents, well, the 1 incident and the repairs to the damage done from that incident. It will be, I'm sure, very little comfort to him for the reporting to the stewards of the what appears to be the guilty party in the 54 SPS Automotive AMG side by side.
And overtaking Maurice Smith, classic manoeuvre there out of the final corner. Ooh, almost loses it under braking into Rettifilo chicane though, but Maurice Smith then gaining a place on Claudius Adanovic after a good run through the Parabolica, and that will be 13th position in class, 15th overall. Incredible speed being shown by the 2 GT3 leaders here though. They're miles ahead of anybody else in the GT3 category. Laverne and Pianazzola showing everyone else how it's to be done.
They leave this race, by the way. Markusson is beginning now to lose ground again. De Kierman, who's under a second back, and once again it seems to have got a second wind. Tony Wells is beginning to pick up pace again. This Porsche versus Lamborghini battle continues to go on and on and on.
Stonking scrap this, and Cedric Mezard does seem to have about the same speed as the Porsche, that just can't utilise it out of the Parabolica. The straight's not quite long enough. The Porsche likes Curva Grande though, because the gap's opened up to about 4 car lengths now.
That's good traction, doesn't it, out of the first chicane. Whether they deal with the chicane itself, again the Porsche seems to be pretty good through there. 16 cylinders in close formation here.
Indeed. Flat 6 variety for the Porsche and V10 for the Lamborghini Huracan, the 5.2 litre V10 that you find in the Audi R8 as well. As the Lannon Racing 4th placed Mikey Benham car threads its way through the second of the chicanes, currently 3.5 seconds behind Tony Wells and a buffer of 1.2 back to Eric Truyer.
That's a change, because I hadn't noticed him going past the second of the Graf cars. We saw him going by the 39, which then was penalised. But Mike Benham's made up another position, up into 4th place now. He is 3.5 seconds from the car ahead, which is Tony Wells, 5.7 seconds off the lead. These are gaps that are going to be interesting and important, in particular when we get to the end of this hour and the second drivers, in many cases the pro drivers, climb aboard. Mike Benham now staring at the back of the number 3 DKR car. It's Tony Wells looking at the back of the DKR car. That's the battle for second position. 1.4 seconds is the gap the last time they crossed the line. So what, if anything, has Tony Wells been able to do this time around it? And the answer is he's taken another 2/10 out of that.
Very good going, and as soon as Michael Benham found some clear air, he put in his best Sector 1 time, so there's still a bit of pace left for the Lannon car too, and this is further evidence that generally everyone's finding more speed with every single lap, although the Michelin tyre performs very nicely. Once you get those killer laps in the opening stint, it drops off very slightly and then provides consistency for the rest of the stint, with a very slight drop off in terms of, probably talking hundreds of seconds. But those blue times from the leading top 9 have started to disappear now. It's going to be a black and white warning flag for the number 35 car, which is the Mercedes, isn't it? That was in third position for a little while, the Krypton Motorsport machine of Marco Zannettini.
I can't immediately remember which car that was penalised for contact with.
It came very close to contact in the 51 Ferrari, but I don't think there was contact.
It was the 51 Ferrari. That was the moment we saw Christoph Ulrich drop off a cliff in terms of position, so that's what it was. It was the two cars coming together, with Christoph Ulrich suffering the slings, arrows and carbon fibre of outrageous fortune there. So the Lucic racing car, not for the first time this season, approaching a top 10 position right now.
Yeah. Yes, and the lap times between Laverne and Pianezzola generally favouring Fabien Laverne for the Swiss squad Lucic, and another Swiss squad, Kessel Racing, trying to hunt them down, but for the moment Fabien Laverne looks to have the measure on the second place GT3 car. Then we've got 7 LMP3s between the top 2 GT3s and everybody else in the GT3 category, led by Mara Kelamir, in a sense in a false position, because that car was in second before it was pinged for a drive-through, and that was for a jump start as well, wasn't it? The 7 car. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Andrew Howard is getting his head around this new package for him this year, getting onto terms now with the Krypton Motorsport car, the 35 car. Zannettini has his mirrors full of a great big ice cream van.
Minus the jingle jangle song and lights on the top. Do the ice cream vans have lights on the top? No, they don't. That's emergency vehicles. I'll move on.
They're different. Yeah.
Indeed. There weren't so many ice creams going at that speed. The second and third place cars all of a sudden have found speed. Francois Kerman and Tony Wells. Now, why is that? Maybe a little bit of clear air and away from GT3 cars for a time. So 147.9, 148.0 respectively for Kerman and Wells.
Interesting moments ahead. It's not so far ahead for Charlie Martin, by the way. She's catching that GT lead battle really quickly now. Around the outside there. Is that going to work?
Is it for Andrew Howard?
Not there, Andrew. Tucked back in.
Zannettini. But yes, there was the opportunity was there, and might be again towards Rettifilio chicane at the end of the start-finish straight.
We're having great fun with this one. This is re-establishment into international level motorsport for Beach Team after some adventures in the European Le Mans series in recent years. We're going to see them try their hand up next, clearly looking to do what they can to win a place at the Le Mans 24 Hours with this class. Way to go yet for that.
And Andrew Howard, despite being a non-pro driver, if you like, bronze rated, is a double champion in the British GT Championship from 2015 and 16, and back in it again for 2019 in the new shaped Aston Martin. Is it actually that car that runs in British GT, I was wondering, after the first round, or just one that looks very like it?
I think he's only got one.
Okay,
so yes.
So it's been a very busy car already, with Alton Park already done in British GT. The race leaders overall now having to deal with a bit more GT3 traffic. The 88 Porsche of Paolo Venerossi is next up. So the Lamborghini of Cedric Mezars dropped well off Venerossi's pace. They were together for several laps, but they've been separated now. And the Porsche looking the stronger car as we get deeper into the stint. Separating the top 2 though, Venerossi through no fault of his own at Lesmo 2. Now Francois Kerman can apply the throttle and get by the Porsche. But that is a bit of time lost to Michael Markussen. You spend the first half an hour making sure you stay with the race leader, and a moment like that, a blink of the eye, and it's all gone to pot.
Part of the kind of traffic appeal of this Le Mans Cup is the fact that there's not a huge amount in it, particularly the straight line speed between the LMP3 cars and the GT3 cars. Of course, the LMP3 cars get better corner speed, Therefore, a bit of a slingshot down the main straight. We can see Tony Moore's taking advantage of that as he goes past Rossi. But head to head in the long straights here, not a lot in it. Meanwhile, Andrew Howard.
Oh, very late on the brakes. Can he turn in? Can he still make the corner? Yes, fabulous overtake. However,
put a flake in it.
What about the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes? Zannettini on the fight back now as they exit the chicane, getting the slightly better run, heading for Curva Grande, 2 abreast. Not quite. And Andrew Howard, I think, will now solidify that position. Also wanted to mention maybe a car running wide out of the Ascari chicane. Last time we caught a glimpse of that, and I wondered whether it might have been Benham or Maratiotto in 5th or 6th position. They're very different colours, though. I'd like to see that again.
In between these two cars now, this is the recovery of Mike Guash. There we go, we'll watch this again. Up the inside, beautifully done there by Andrew Howard. Just distracted the other driver on the run down towards the braking zone, dummied him. He will be telling himself that's exactly how Nigel Mansell did it.
I think it was. Classic overturn. I mean, you know, throw the dummy, as you say, left side, right side, which side am I going to go? And Marco Zannettini ran out of opportunity to defend. And now the Aston's pulling away from the Mercedes.
I should say Andrew Howard, famously, of course, ran Nigel Mansell out the morning. It was a beach team effort.
Yes, of course.
The infamous Ginetta Zytek.
With Greg and Leo Mansell?
It was with Greg and Leo.
One of them.
I think so. Here we go.
I thought it was Nigel with his 2 sons, but I may be wrong. Somebody will correct us, I'm sure, on social media. The 39 still is yet to pit. Despite this issue with he has pitted, I beg your pardon, done a drive-through, and that was the penalty. So they haven't actually repaired the damage, or whether that body was right from the start. I have no idea. But 39 then still rattling its way down the straight towards the Ascari chicane, and in 11th position, having been overtaken by the Grain Market racing car of Mark Crader and Alexander Talkanitsa in the number 90 machine.
It was indeed Greg and Leo as all 3 Mansells. 2010, ended after 17 laps, I'm afraid. Yeah, debris on the track there.
And that's on the back straight then, the lead into the Parabolica, not on the natural racing line, but we often get cars 2 and possibly 3 abreast as one goes for a move on the other. So that will be something to think about for Eduardo Freitas, our race director. Happy, I'm sure, to keep the track live for the time being. And
he's listening to us, isn't he?
I think he must be. I think he must be, because there's a message now popped up on the bottom of our timing screen. We may have debris on the track between turn 10 and turn 11.
We've just seen that it did indeed come off the Christian Olsen car.
Oh, wide though for Mark Crader for Grain Market, and he can't make the second bit of the first chicane. So that was a little bit of pressure from behind, perhaps, from Talkanitsa and the number 39 machine. Or have we got a bit of moisture in the air? I mean, the grip is at a premium down there. But, the 2 cars behind managed to keep it on the straight and narrow. Mark will put that behind him now and try and catch these 2 up again as they exit the second of the chicanes. So that will be a change again for 9th position.
Yep. We're 17 minutes from the... Here we go again. This is Mark Crader at the start here. He's got the 2 guys filling his mirrors. Goes defensive. And just understeers off. Strange moment, because I don't think he caught the curb in the second bit of the chicane. Bit of distraction maybe. Just a little bit too much corner speed there for him. Possibly. Anyway, thankfully, the wall isn't right up against the edge of the track there. And OK, you run through the gravel and your next lap will be very tricky on dirty tyres, but still in the race and still an opportunity to get some points. So, homing in on 40 minutes to go. In about 15 minutes time, therefore, the pit lane effectively will be open, with 55 minutes soon to be completed by driver 1. Also carrying damage on the left side, front left corner now for Adrian Schiller. I don't remember that being there all race long. Maybe it was. Maybe that's the reason why the right side's so crooked too. Maybe at the start of the race. Possibly. Very difficult to stay on top of everything that was going on there. That damage is getting worse on that car, I think.
Well, there are bits emerging now that I don't remember from a couple of laps ago. But anyway, it's going to get very close indeed to the number 90 machine under braking again at the Rettifilio chicane, and they now exit into the sunshine, I notice, at Curva Grande.
We'll be hoping to get that car to the pit stop, where the team will be able to effect a small repair.
And now they're threading their way through the second of the chicane. Meanwhile, what's happening at the front of the field? Well, this is a very good lap from Michael Markusson. Absolute best through the first sector. 1.4 seconds is the gap. This Ligier is showing tremendous speed across the stint as well. Can Joachim Fried, once he takes over, offer this sort of speed, I wonder?
Top three still separated by under 4 seconds. If anything, it's Kierman just dropping back a little, as is Tony Wells. 3.7 seconds, it's another 10 seconds back before we get to Eric Trunier, who's under pressure now from Michael Benham for 4th position.
Adrian Schiller, not the ideal exit route from the second of the Lesmos that time around. I'm sure at least a couple of Michelin tyres off onto the grass there as he tried to straight line the kink on the run down to Ascari.
Point should be made as we close in on the pit window is the Kia Racing team have opted to start technically their faster driver, whereas most of the cars behind did not do that.
Yeah.
So it's been a fine run from Markusson, but this might well sweep the other way.
It's true.
And some very quick men still to come.
I mean, Keogh will have been hoping for a lead rather larger than 0.9 in a second from, as you say, predominantly bronze drivers. Francois Kerman in the number 3 squad is the bronze. Lawrence Herr consistently faster than him, more experienced admittedly, as the leaders suddenly find Andrew Howard, who is now all on his own. He had somebody to race with up until this point, but Howard is trying to bring the gap down to Christoph Ulrich in the number 51 Ferrari. He's got about 7 seconds to try and find, but that gap is definitely falling to the Spirit of Race Ferrari, which is 4th in the field. Top 2 in GT3 still together on the screen, although separated by 6.3 seconds in reality, and they have a huge margin over Mauro Calamia, who again is the non-bronze. He's the silver-rated driver by the FIA, Swiss, and Roberto Pampanini still to come, therefore, in Scuderia Villorba Corsa Mercedes.
Kierman close in his pin for some little while here, as the pace of the Ligier suffering at the end of this stint. Not so easy to notice. It's just 0.6 of a second, though, the gap between the two. All of a sudden, Tony Wells has dropped back a little. It's a black and orange flag for the RLRM Sport car, Christian Olsen, to repair the rear left of the car. It's effectively race over for them, I'm afraid.
We were kind of that point anyway, and they've done their best at RLR to do a running repair, but being asked to come in to address that further. Wasn't in great shape as it left them. I'm sure it's in an even worse state now, because it's very bumpy around parts of this Monza circuit, and that will have shaken their handiwork with the racer tape and the tyre wraps. So they might even decide to park the car at this point. The 14, we'll wait and see. An hour and 17 still to go. So the opportunity to change drivers inches ever closer. Mauro Calamia upper spot that time around. Now what happened to Rob Hodes? Rob Hodes on that lap, losing a bit of time. And the number 23 United Autosports car still there in 21st position ahead of the sister car of Mike Gouache, which will be carrying nose damage after Gouache caught the back of Ganazzola's Ferrari. But the good news for Kessel is that their race doesn't seem to have been affected by that little bit of contact into the second chicane.
Traffic ahead for the leading pair.
Also bright sunshine I'm noticing here at Monza, so maybe we're not going to get the rain after all. It's definitely going to happen now I've said that.
100%. You just completely spoke. Through the parabolica they come. Christoph Ulrich's Ferrari, I think, will clear the turn in time, but all of a sudden Kierman looks to be exerting pressure, and he's got a great run out of parabolica. Is he able to use the toe? Closer than he's ever been here.
Christoph Ulrich is the Ferrari then involved with this. That's the car that's trying to be caught by Andrew Howard, but they're running out of straight to get to the chicane, and actually will the 51 be the wedge between the two of them? Francois Kerman says, oh no, I've been working for the last 10 minutes to haul in the race leader, and again it goes against me.
0.355 of a second as they cross the line. It'll be more than that next time if he can maintain the gap he's gained by using the Ferrari just to put a little bit of a barrier between them.
And in the distance, Tony Wells is there or thereabouts, still in third position for Nielsen Racing. Eric Trouillet a further, well, he's at 8.5 seconds back, but a nice little battle developing between Trouillet and Mike Benham, I noticed, for fourth position as RLR return to the pit lane. As
Indeed they do, yeah, and of course there with the meatball flag, the you need to come and repair it flag.
Yeah.
But Mike Benham still battling away for that fourth position, looking to hand over the championship leading car to Duncan Tappy in as good order, both mechanically and in terms of position, that he possibly can. I should say, by the way, Christian Olsen is on pit lane. I think I've seen him set 3 or 4 fastest middle sectors in that attempt to the recovery drive. So spirited offering from Christian.
And a great overtake on the racing experience car of Charlie Martin, I remember. He also overtook 1 or 2 others too before the first stop for the team to try and repair the car. And it sounds like now the whole rear section's being brought off the car. The difficulty is it's that sort of under tray section that needs replacing, and that is not a quick job. Late on the brakes here for the number 4 car of John Showerman. He can't make the corner though at the Rettifilio. That was John on Claudio Sedanovic, the 55 car, and won't be able to gain a place now that he rejoins after taking to the escape route.
Indeed, loses a place to Rob Hodes in the offing. I've got one eye on what's going on in pit lane, by the way. I've never seen so many tie wraps offered up to a car. It literally was 2 fists full of them.
Wow.
I'm not sure they're going to let this car go again.
The 4 car then having to go right and left and right again through the tight sort of plasticky boxes there that are designed to be hit if they have to be, if the car's out of control. It's not concrete blocks down there, but if you do just outbrake yourself like John Showerman, then you have to do the gentlemanly thing and take to the escape route, make sure that you don't gain time or indeed a position. That was Christian rejoin.
That was Christian Olsen's car. I wonder if they're going to replace it with the rear deck from the LMS car that's in the garage next to them.
Really? Okay.
Christian's other car.
Yeah, well, it's possible, but with over an hour to go, there is obviously track time that you're waving goodbye to here, so it could become a test session for RLRM Sport, and maybe they're keen for that. I'm sure that's the case, and we can see now, we're hearing from Louise Beckett that they are indeed looking to repair that part.
Okay. And there's a bit of a rush. This is remember, this is the championship defending team, RLR from the ELMS, looking to do as good a job as they possibly can for their young driver, who's in this Michelin Lamont Cup for...
Well, you can't knock their never say die attitude, and persistence is key. So you just keep on knocking at the door, just get the car back in the race, and you're not going to get a result today. But the extra track time, as I say, for Christian's father might be useful considering the later portion of the season. So Tom Olsen yet to drive that car. There it is, the 14 machine minus the engine cover now, but definitely work taking place. There's where the impact was in that corner. It's taken a mighty bite, hasn't it, out of that rear diffuser and bodywork. Yeah, and the whole legality panel no longer there either. Meantime, back on track. And what's going on with this lead battle? Still under a second, 9/10 of a second, with Tony Wells not making much of an impact on this. A couple of tenths here and there. He's 3.5 seconds back still. They've now got the 24 car ahead. They're coming up to lap the 22nd place car overall of Mike Gouache. There's going to be lots of silver-rated drivers licking their lips at this prospect, I think, because the bronze-rated drivers have done a terrific job to keep their cars in the mix, and we're not talking about huge margins here. It's a big gap from second to third. The battle then, third to fourth, still only 9/10 of a second, as Benham is troubling Trouillet every stretch of the way. And I think once that battle evolves into Duncan Tappy versus Adrian Trouillet, it's going to be fabulous. We're maybe 3-4 laps ahead, away from the pit lane window. Yeah. And this is becoming, Johnny Palmer, if this stays green, no sign of it not doing that, has real potential for a cracker of a finish. Everybody's sort of holding station right now. Yes, we haven't got, endless overtaking at the head of the order, but Francois Kerman is doing his job, making sure he stays with Michael Markusson And that will be important when the drivers are switched around, because Kia Racing have employed their silver rated driver first of all and still only have this 0.6 of a second lead. So Joachim Fried is going to have his work cut out when, for instance, the number 3 car is changed to Laurence Heur. We'll have Colin Noble installed in the number 2 car to take over from Tony Wells, Adrien Trouillet from Eric Trouillet, Duncan Tappy from Mikey Benham, as I say. In the other DKR engineering car, it's Maritiotto right now. It's Marco Cencetti, another silver driver, still to come.
Once, I was just about to say, once again, the Ligier manages to get a car between him and the man trying to get on the tail of the leading car, but almost in doing so overcooks it on the exit of the second chicane. That cost Marcus a little bit of time, but still the DKR car has not managed to make the move. So it is going to give the Ligier an opportunity to just pull out that gap a little.
Incredible moment though, when Michael Marcussen did so well to hang on to that with a couple of wheels in the gravel, which is very close to the edge of the track on the exit of the chicane.
Now that the Norma clears it, but there's big traffic ahead for this pair. It's going to be a matter of just how well they can deal with it. 4.5 minutes until the pit lane opens. And that was a much better run down to the back straight from the Norma. Has he got an opportunity here to do this on the start-finish straight, Johnny Palmer? Look how close this is.
It, didn't he? Yeah, and Francois Kerman then can't do it at the Parabolica, but what about the exit out of this long right-hander, which brings them onto the start-finish over the timing line. The gap's going to stretch out very slightly now to 3, 4, 5 car lengths.
He's got a great run through Parabolica, the Ligier man.
Yes. Marcussen, yeah.
Where's he going to catch this stream of traffic? Looks to the inside. There's no room there for the Norman to get through. Meantime, behind them, Tony Wells has now got a similar task in hand.
Sergio Pianazzola taking 0.3 of a second out of Fabien Laverne last time around, and he's just done his best Sector 1 time, Pianazzola. So those 2 cars are going to, when they get to the pit stops, be separated by a handful of seconds, maybe 6 or 7.
3 LMP3 cars before we get to the lead battle. Red and silver car, then the orange and black car, then the other 2 cars in the mix in traffic, and then Tony Wells in the blue and white car. Looks a little bit like a, well, kind of miniature Peugeot from back in the day, that car, and it's in its Nielsen Racing livery. Well, we've got the Mini Toyota with the Lannan car. We might as well have a Mini Peugeot as well.
Absolutely, yeah, why not? Kind of baby prototype replicas of former Le Mans winning cars. So out of the left-hander at Serralio comes the bit of lappery now necessary for Michael Marcussen, overtaking John Schaumann.
They both get through. The leading pair get through on the number 4 car. This, by the way, is the car for 21st overall. Next up is going to be the battling 23 and 55. As one of the cars runs well wide there. Through on the 23 they go. Both, no, only one that managed through there. Is the number 3 car going to manage to get it done into Parabolica just?
So getting ahead of Rob Hodes there in 23 is Kerman to ensure the gap doesn't grow too much to the Kia Racing car, which leads overall. Number 3 DKR in second, and who was it running wide?
The United man. It was Hodes. He obviously got his mirrors full of this battle.
Yeah. And the dust will take a further lap to clear fully from the exit of the Ascari chicane. Still, this battle pack continues then between Kia Racing and DKR Engineering, now sandwiched between slower LMP3 cars.
It's the Claudia Tadanovic number 55 car is the next car to be dealt with. Neatly done up the inside from the leading car. Again, it's pulled out a little bit, just a little bit here in traffic. Masterfully done, actually, by the Kia Racing man. Under huge pressure, but has soaked it up really very well indeed. And the man who's suffered here is Tony Wells, by the way, as he's still got cars to clear and is dropping time.
Gap still coming down in GT3, 6.3 seconds now, so a further 0.4 found by Sergio Pianazzola on Fabien Laverne. That might be traffic induced, but it sets things up very tastily indeed for the second stint.
It's going to be another lap after this one for the leading pair at least.
And what are Kia Racing going to do? Do they keep Michael Marcussen in that car for as long as possible? Because you can stretch the window, as we've said, to 65 minutes.
I think you keep him out there. If you believe you've got the quicker driver in the car, you keep him out there.
Yeah. Then, I mean, leaving it too long there might be some sort of caution, and then you might not be able to get back to the pit lane in time, but that's a gamble worth taking when it is the silver-rated driver starting the race.
This is the battle for 16th position overall, 14th in LMP3 between the United Autosports car of Jim Maguire, Claudio Vaglio in the number 96 Cool Racing car. And up the inside goes the Cool Racing man. Does he do it? Getting up Jim Maguire, does him again. He clatters the 96 over the curbs on the exit, the first chicane. So Jim Maguire just waited for that to unfold in front of him.
Yeah.
Watch it again, up the inside. Came in really rather too hot, couldn't quite make the turn. The gap opens up for the American, through he goes. I'll have that back, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. And Christian Vaglio doing the right thing there, not putting the power down, allowing the Jim Maguire car back by before then he accelerated out of the second bit of the first chicane, realising his mistake. There'll be an opportunity in the near future for maybe Christian to try that again. That's for 14th and 15th positions then in the LMP3 category. And they are behind the two GT3 leaders. The first pit lane callers, and these, yeah, we are, 55 minutes. I was looking at the wrong clock then.
We're in the window, just not for the leaders because they come back around.
Indeed.
So 30 and 90 from 9th and 10th position overall. Jacques Wolf and Alexander Talkanidze Jr. are in. Yep. Those two were in very close contention as they came in. CD Sport 80 Racing. Of course, we'll drop down the order. We get into that 10-minute period where things just take a little while. In comes the 8. Sergio Piazzolla and Charlie Martin is in as well. So too is EB Motors. So gaggle of cars on pit lane. Here comes Tony Wells to the outside, trying to do what he can to deal with this traffic. It's taken him a while to get into this battle. He has dropped maybe 3 or 4 seconds to the leaders as a result of that. Also in the 96 car from Cool Racing.
CD Sport then, Jack Wolf to hand over to Kevin Bol-Bassanson of France. We'll see how Bol-Bassanson gets on for the Spanish flagged team.
Both
leaders still
cars
together, aren't they?
They're together, but they've also gone through for another lap. They've not pitted at the first opportunity. In fact, the first of the leading group to pit is Mike Benham from 5th. He will hand that car over, the 25 car, to Duncan Tappy. So he's keen to get Dunk into the car as quickly as he possibly can. That might have a part to play here. Came in, by the way, something like 20 seconds back from the lead battle. Here comes Christoph Ulrich, the 51 car.
And that car from 4th position in GT3. Pianizzola's already stopped. Mauro Killamia staying out, and the race leader in GT3 staying out.
Sanatini in the Krypton car. Ahead of him, Andrew Howard is in the Beach Team car. So the GT battle is the one that's going to take shape earlier.
Yes.
Ross Gunn will take over in the 99 car.
Confidence from Lucic Racing, though, to keep Fabien Laverne at the wheel of his car, and Mauro Calamier is the silver anyway, so that would be the sensible thing for Scuderia Viola Corsa to do, to keep Calamier driving for as long as possible before handing over to Roberto Pampanini.
Yeah, Charlie Martin, I'm afraid, and the 96 car of Christian Vaglio reported to the stewards for speeding in the pit lane. There will be undoubtedly a penalty to come there. In comes the Lucic Racing car from, again, into the top 10 overall. Kyle
Bol-Bassanson, as I said, taking over the CD Sport car then and rejoining. A much longer stop than it needed to be for AT Racing. Alexander Talkanidze Jr. taking that number 90 car over, but they were well over 2.5 minutes when comparing to CD Sport. They did a 2:07.
Into the pit lane come the two leading cars and the Nielsen Racing car from 3rd position. Graf Racing stays out for now, so Eric Trillier will go long on this stint. In comes Markusen and Kierman and Tony Wells. Trillier for the lead for the moment, the number 9 car.
So tyres going in, fuel being done as well as the driver change right now at the number 3 squad. So that is Francois Kierman out and Laurent Her in.
Looked a little odd, that looked like the car went down.
After having wheels changed perhaps, and now they're doing the driver change at the same time as fuel. Interesting.
Yeah, but the fuel hadn't got on.
Right, So an attachment with the nozzle problem, you think,
maybe.
potentially. And that right rear wheel's troublesome going onto the Ferrari, but it has now been seated correctly. As in another 45 seconds' time, we will be at half distance. Everything cool and calm and collected at Kia Racing then, with an opportunity for the screen to be cleaned as well as the seconds tick by. Remember, these are minimum time pit stops, so you can't breach the regulation time, and therefore you're not as hurried as you might see in the European Le Mans Series.
Being reported as slow on track. Yellow flag at turn 7 now. So which car is that? Is that a car that's had trouble coming out of the pits? We'll find out soon enough.
I'm now starting to think, and this is me fessing up to the fact that I didn't check the minimum time for these pit stops, but a 2:07.
Oh, it's a car that's been off.
Big incident.
Is that the racing
experience car? It looks like it, certainly from the rear. We'll try and identify that with, well, it's shown as stopped on the circuit as well. David Hauser, the man from Luxembourg.
That's his outlap, I think.
And possibly a wheel coming loose from that car. But yes, the 2:07 from CD Sport stands out to me as being much quicker than everybody else in terms of a pit stop time. So are they going to be pinged for breaching the regulation time limit?
Kia Racing are out. DKR, though, are not. And out ahead of them is Nielsen Racing. So Nielsen Racing, in the hands of Colin Noble, Jochen Creed just ahead. DKR now lead with Lawrence Herr, but Duncan Tappy has leapfrogged the number 3 car. So of the cars that have stopped, it's now 43 from 2, from 25 from 3.
And the stock car being shown at turn 7, which is the 11, but it's Lesmo 2. And I think possibly, was that on the exit of Lesmo 2 then?
Well, it was reported slow between 6 and 7, then stopped.
Might be able to see it here as the cars work their way through. Yes,
here
there it is. So it's the exit of the second Lesmo to driver's right, and there's certainly a wheel off the rear left corner, I think. As we've got still the top 4 remaining in the pit lane, although top 4 as they're locked in at this point in the race, but the former race leader, Kia Racing number 43, was still trying to work out where that is when all this unravels.
It looked to me as well, by the way, there was some bodywork missing from that car, but it was an odd angle.
Yeah.
So it'd be better if we get a better shot of it. We'll let you know on that one. But Kia Racing certainly turned their car around pretty well. We'll wait and see whether or not the CD Sport is an extremely good pit stop or one that's over the question.
I have a feeling it's 2:10 somehow, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which is exactly what Kessel Racing did with the number 50
Racing.
and Nielsen Racing. What we don't get is the tenths and hundredths and thousandths of seconds, and these pit stops are timed to that margin. But if it's displayed as a 2:10 on our clock, I reckon that's legal. The 2:07 is questionable for me for the number 30 car.
You then look to the teams that took rather longer, and one of those is DKR Engineering number 3 car. The number 5 sister car, by the way, reported for speeding in pit lane as well. But another of the cars there, BHK at 2:32. They've dropped time in the pit stops. There's a 2:39 there somewhere. That is the AT Racing team. So there's been a variety of times, something like 30 seconds between the quickest pit stop times and the slower ones. And trouble for the number 9 car. Exit the first chicane. That is Adrian Trouillet on his outlap. It emerged in 4th position, but we lose that place. Didn't see the start of the incident, I'm afraid. I was distracted by something else. Let's look here. Comes through, and is there contact? No. You nearly collected the 2 cars behind as well.
There was contact straight afterwards, but that wasn't what caused the spin, was it? So the number 9 car looping, Adrian Trouillet, I should say, and that caused problems for the number 4 and another car behind, Nico Ronde driving the number 4 car from Cool Racing.
So Tappy Herr looks to be the battle for overall honours with 56 minutes to go. Everybody has now made a pit stop. The 39 Graf car, the last of the regular cars to do so. And that's a car that has already had a run down pit lane as a penalty for a jump start. Seems to have some trouble starting the car here.
Oh, they're still trying to fix the bodywork on a 39 car as well, because front right was rattling around for the whole stint. The front left is now missing its lens. Yeah, the left side headlight lens has gone, and that's also caused damage, or has damage just above it as well on the wing itself. Anyway, Ferrari number 71, this is still the class leader, still shown as Fabien Laverne on our screen.
Yeah.
That's not right, is it?
No, Giacomo Puccini is beginning to make inroads as well into the 71 car's advantage. So the Lucic Racing and Kessel Racing cars, as the 39 car leaves pit road.
71, yes, has made a stop.
Yes.
2 minutes 16 seconds. So Laverne should actually read now co-driver Michelin Lamont.
I'm sure that's the case.
The next lap time will tell us properly, because Michelin Lamont generally a little faster than Fabien Laverne, although it's pretty close, because let's face it, Fabien Laverne just about the quickest bronze driver in the entry this weekend.
Alex Mortimer up the inside of the number 90 car. That's for 8th position, the Grey Market Racing car. Something over a minute off the lead. Gaps at the moment with 55 minutes to go. It is the Kia Racing car leads the 43 car, Jochen Creed, as it has from the start, and we're going to go to full course yellow in just a few moments.
Now Taukenitzer Jr. making a move on the number 20 car. Will get that done before the full course yellow, so a well-timed overtake. That's for 8th place on Alex Mortimer.
That was retaking the place, wasn't it? It was retaking the place. Alex had just taken that place, and I wonder if he got a call about full course yellow and was just unsighted by it.
No, but it was Taukenitzer Jr. on Mortimer.
No, Mortimer had just taken the place from him.
Okay.
Just previously.
Well, this was the overtake I saw, and number 90 overtaking the 20 and in the braking area, and that had changed moments before it. So, right. So was the Grey Market Racing driver, Alex Mortimer, do you think he got the message about a caution?
I think he got the message about a caution, and I think he was just wary about exactly... Yeah,
when it was going to kick in.
Absolutely. Wow. New fastest lap of the race, by the way, came just before that full course caution came out. That came to Colin Noble, and but 2 seconds off the lead before the caution came in.
RLR, now that looks much better at RLR.
That's much better.
So the Bullet is now back in position. More racer tape being applied. Well, they're trying to put more sheets on, but it's not tacking quite as it should. We'll leave them to that as we look back then on highlights, and many of them for the opening hour and a bit of the second race of the year for the 2019 Michelin Lamont Cup. So many cars, 30 of them streaming over the line then and down towards the very tight right and left-hander at the Rettifilo chicane. Amazingly, everybody seemed to get through. One car off onto the grass was Mauro Calamia. He did some of those overtakes, I think, therefore, off the track, and was later pinged for a jump start anyway. There was a clash for the number 51 Ferrari. We didn't see the incident itself, but another car was involved. And also the 54 SPS Automotive Performance car of Dexter Muller clashing with the Christian Olsen number 14 machine. And Christian Olsen carrying damage after that as well, which is still, would you believe, being fixed in the pit lane. The 30 car, Jack Wolf, making a good move on one of the Cool Racing cars. Mikey Benham up the inside here of Adrian Schiller in the 39 damaged car, and that was damaged very early on in the stint. Interestingly, at that stage of the race, though, it still had the lens in place on the front left headlight, so that went later on. And the number 90 car, which was Alexander Taukenitzer Senior, almost involved in an incident that happened right behind him, which was a spin for the United Autosports car of Rob Hodes. Plenty happening for Hodes during his stint. Mike Gouache into the back of Sergio Pianazzola. Squealer tyre was mainly from Gouache's car, which swapped ends very quickly indeed. He fought around in the gearbox to find a forward gear, and I feared that there'd been some damage to the Sergio Pianazzola Ferrari. Fortunately for those guys, that wasn't the case at Kessel. An off-track moment for Mark Crader in his Grey Market Racing car on the exit of the first chicane, and this was Christian Olsen's machine then. Tom Olsen awaiting his chance to take over, but much work required from RLR M Sport before the car could rejoin the race. Overcooking the first chicane, John Schauerman just outbraking himself, but got out of it okay, taken to the escape road. He actually lost the place net as a result of that very slight error. The 71 Ferrari, Fabien Laverne, has led every lap, I think, of the GT3 so far. The GT3 race with Lucid Racing just ahead of Giacomo Puccini now. Still being shown as Fabien Laverne, interestingly, on our timing screen. That will be Michelin Lamont, though. Having that car's made a stop without a doubt. Keo Racing then so strong after the first stint, and Joachim Fried continuing to lead the race after a good stop. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. 7.8 seconds is the lead margin over Colin Noble and a rapid looking Duncan Tappy. That is your top three then, as we are currently full course yellow, and the Aston Martin leaving the second chicane there. As we can get some news in a moment or two from the pit lane, the number 5 car, DKR Engineering, heading through the chicane as well. And Graf with an entertaining race so far. Their best car is in 6th place. Let's hear from the team now with Louise Beckett.
Well, we've seen the 39 go back out after fixing all the damage. You did so well to last so long with the front of your car flapping around. What was wrong? How did it happen?
Yes, it was a very long race because in the turn 1 I touched my teammate, the car 9, and I lost a lot of performance on the car in the speed corner. It was very, very hard. So I do what I can and finish my stint.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I think there was a secondary incident as well, which, unless, of course, the vibration caused that breakage on the headlight in the front left corner, but an amazing stint from Adrian Schiller. And Nico Schatz now, the former French hill climb champion, multi-champion, has taken that car over. So there you go, Nicolas. Bring it home, son. With the car in almost bits. But I think Graf have done a good job in taping much of that up again. So 1 hour done. In fact, 1 hour and 10 minutes now done, and Keo Racing lead under the full course yellow from the Nielsen Racing machine of Colin Noble. Joachim Fried, by the way, drives the race leading car. Duncan Tappy taking over at Lannon. Laurence Heur for DKR Engineering is 4th, and in 5th place Kevin Boll, Bassasson for CD Sport. GT3 up to 10th overall still. Michelin Lamont driving the Lucid Racing Ferrari ahead of Giacomo Puccini for Kessel Racing. 71 and 8, then 10th and 11th overall, and you've got to look all the way down to 18th position overall for the next GT3. Spirit of Race, Maurizio Mediani in car 51. Then it's Ross Gunn in the Aston Martin from Beechdene, and 5th in category Krypton Motorsport with Stefano Pezzucchi in car 35.
Not too far, I don't think, before getting this race back to green flag running. We've seen the Manitou lifting the number 11 car with, you're absolutely right, a rear wheel completely missing. Didn't look at that angle to be any bodywork damage, so I think just unable to get it back with no drive to one side of the car. Full course yellow is still on. Watching some interesting variance in the full course yellow times on some of these cars, running everything from 4:08 to 4:21 on what should be the same speed limiter.
Yes. Well, that's going to be looked at without a doubt. I mean, it's looked at as a matter of course at the end of a full course yellow, because we get penalties sort of 10-15 minutes after each one.
Also confirmation, by the way, that it is 2 minutes 10, that is the bogey time for the pit stops. That should mean that there's potential problems ahead for the 5th place car. The number 30 CD Sport car came out of the pits with 2:07 on the clock. Plaudits to Nielsen Racing, and to who was the other car that you mentioned? It was one of the lead GT cars, wasn't it? At 2:10 dead.
Yes.
It was Kessel Racing's 50 car, the Ollie Hancock, John Hartshorn car.
3, 2, 1, green, track is back to green.
And we go back to green flag running with the words spoken by race director Eduardo Freitas. Down towards the first chicane comes a little battle in GT between the MG and the Lamborghini.
Yes, and I'm trying to work out whether that was actually for position, because Stevie S isn't on the same lap as Stefano Pezzucchi,
no,
is he?
not.
But it could have been an incredible start there for the Scuderia Viola Corsa Huracan, number 83. But actually was battling with Krypton Motorsports, Pezzucchi's Mercedes, which is 5th. The Lamborghini is 8th.
So we'll keep an eye on what happens with the leading group as they come to complete the lap now. There's a 5-second gap. Joachim Fried to Colin Noble. I swear that was 2.7 before we went to caution.
Well, as I say, the full course yellow speeds are closely observed, whether that be automatically or there are ways as well of tracking the cars around the map. not just in the 3 sectors. I'm sure Alcamel installed 1 or 2 secret sectors as well, the sneaky timing line that nobody knows about, just to judge that sort of thing. And there's the message that we get at the end of every caution: FCY speeds under investigation.
We've got a yellow flag at turn 9 and 10, so someone is off the road by the look of things, unless we've got some debris down there.
Turns 9 and 10 being the Ascari chicane, there is a car off in the distance. It's a prototype, an LMP3 machine. I'm going to hand over to Graham Goodwin at this point to identify it.
It's a dark Ligier.
BHK?
BHK, spot on.
Oh, I'm better than I think. BHK is the Manino car then, so that was driven by Giacomo Barato for the opening stint and has been taken over by Francesco Manino of Italy. 2 bronzes actually in amongst that squad. Now, news on RLR. The 14 car's not had an ideal race. Let's hear from Christian Olsen with Luke.
Not an ideal race at all for Christian Olsen, and good on the team for keeping going and persevering to try and fix the car. I believe the initial incident probably happened with the GT at the beginning that gave you some damage.
Yeah, so we were heading down into turn 1, and I managed to overtake the Porsche and the Ferrari, the Mercedes. And I guess he outbraked himself, couldn't avoid hitting me in the rear, and that took both of us out. I think ended both of our races in reality. So it's a shame.
Well, you did really well to go back up the field.
Yeah. The second time I got called into the pits for repairs, it was really disappointing because I felt like I was still able to keep on going. The impact had actually put the toe out on the rear left wheel, so the car was actually handling differently as well. On top of that, we had the piece of the tail that was sticking up, creating loads of drag. So there's only so much we could do, but we tried our best. You can only keep going.
Absolutely. So was it the team that called you in, or the officials, that the first time you came in?
Well, the officials told the team that they had to call me in for repairs, and they did 1 repair, then we went back out, and then I believe the structure wasn't, good enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, so that was a message from above, as it were, rather than the team saying
And
best to get in.
correctly so.
Yeah,
I have to say.
It's just we didn't get those messages on the screen. I don't remember anyway. Sorry.
Herring up to the back of the lead car though, Colin Noble, that was 5 seconds, remember, a lap ago. That's now down to under 2 seconds, and I think by the time they cross the line, it's going to be under 1. So the young Scot now getting onto terms with the Kia racing car. The 43 car has led, other than through the pit stops, from the very start, but with his tail up. I think the 2019 version of Alan McNish, Colin Noble is developing into. He's a feisty young Scot, very, very quick. And I think this young man is going to be something of a star of the future without a shadow of a doubt.
Yep.
Pit stop, by the way, for car 30 is under investigation. We're getting good at this, Johnny.
Funnily enough.
And through they come to complete the lap. Well, that was, remember, 5 seconds, just over a lap ago. Colin Noble looks set, I think, to take the lead, possibly here into the first chicane.
Here comes the 22-year-old then from Edinburgh, Scotland originally, and darting out of line then the number 2 car. I almost said 7 there because it is in the other ELMS race, but late on the brakes, and Joachim Fried tried to hold him back but just couldn't. And now we're going to see, I'm sure, the number 2 car disappear up the road.
He's going to have to, because coming quickly is Duncan Tappy in the 3rd place car, London Racing, the 25. Fastest lap of the race for Duncan last time through, 1:46.632. He's only 5.5 seconds back from this pair.
So the Kia racing car still just about with Colin Noble. Duncan Tappy appearing now at the 2nd chicane in 3rd position. So bear in mind the United Autosports Ligier is not in the lead group. That's a car 1 lap off at the leaders. Is that Matt Bell? Not necessarily. No, that won't be that United Autosports car, but Matt Bell remains on the lead lap and is charging
24.
incredibly hard.
It's the 24.
So Matt Bell, the man from the northeast of England, doing 1:49.3 last time around. That is quicker than a number of cars ahead. Duncan Tappy with a brand new fastest lap of the race. He's even quicker through Sector 1 on this lap as well.
And Sector 2, purple sectors for both of those ahead of him. On the road, Colin Noble going quickly, Duncan Tappy going more quickly. Lawrence Hurt trying to hang on to this pair. This is cracking stuff at the leaders race. We said we thought this might come together nicely. We've got potentially 40 minutes of this, Johnny, to look forward to. Finally, by the way, the timing screen reflects the fact it is Michelin Lamont aboard the number 71 car. He's got Matt Bell between him and the Giacomo Puccini car. The BHK car, meanwhile, is the car that was in trouble at turn 10 and 11. Hearing from Louise Beckett, that car has stopped in pit lane with serious damage to the rear. So that, I think, has been backwards into the barrier.
You know who they need to call? The RLR M Sport
They're
lads.
very good. They've probably got the plans they've done for that.
They'll turn it round in about 5 minutes. But a big, I mean, you don't have a small offer on the exit of Ascari, and it ended up on the left side of that route out of the triple element chicane.
It's a fastest lap of the race for Duncan Tappy again, and 1:46.399. Only just a little off that. 1:46.454 is the responding Colin Noble. Meantime, there will be a 3-second stop-and-go penalty for the CD Sport car. Currently in 7th position. It's dropped back a position for not having respected the minimum pit stop time. And that 3 seconds is the 3 seconds they were short. But of course, they suffer the run through pit lane again as well.
It's actually Garrett Grist ahead of Duncan Tappy rather than Wayne Boyd. So that's the 23 car, the man from Grimsby. No, not that one in Ontario, Canada. And actually, Garrett Grist is going to prove quite difficult for Duncan Tappy to lap, I would think. Might be the need for some blue flags relatively soon, because, as I say, that United Autosports car with the red door mirrors not on the lead lap. The 25 car is in 3rd, behind Kia Racing, number 43, and behind the number 2 car, which is now threading the eye of the needle between the 14 RLR M Sport car and the Ferrari, which is 2nd in GT3. Giacomo Puccini sensibly staying high, wide and handsome to steer clear of the overall race leader.
Well done by both those cars. Away goes Colin Noble. He's well away and clear there. But Duncan Tappy closing in very rapidly indeed now on the 2nd place Ligier, the 43 car from Kia Racing. Jochen Fried beginning to struggle now, feeling the heat a little. Remember, this is the team that started their quicker driver. Jochen Fried, despite the fact did so well in qualifying, is the less qualified driver in the Kia Racing car. And goes straight on, and that's an easy pass for position for Duncan Tappy. He'll have to cede that position to Duncan. Away he goes.
So anyway. I think there's some extra polystyrene blocks in place on the escape route, so it's impossible to actually maintain position unless you're as good as Russell Swift through things like that. Handbrake turn your way out of the escape route. Duncan Tappy shaping up Garrett Grist again for a bit of lappery to ensure clear road ahead. He still can't do it though.
No, it should be letting him go here at this point. This is not a battle position. He gets the blue flag. Up the inside goes Tappy and away. And at the next timing point, we will see what that gap is.
So safely
5
through,
seconds.
but now straight into the path of Tom Olsen, who again will be shown blue flags because he's many laps down, sadly, for RLR. That was the Kia car going straight on for a moment to go.
More penalties coming the way this time of the 96 and the 5 car. The 5 car is the 7th place DKR engineering car. Drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane for that car, and for the 96. Which is where in the order?
96 is 22nd. It's the Cool Racing car, 17th in class, and being driven now by Romain Carton from France, who's the silver, taking over from Christian Vallio.
That's Mortimer, meanwhile, on terms now with the number 90 car, the AT Racing car, in the hands of Alexander Talcanita Jr. now. This is for 8th overall. And Alex Mortimer closing. Ligier ahead, Normal behind.
Through the Curva Grande, and in a moment or two, the second of the chicanes will home into view, and darting from one side of the track to the other to an attempt at an overtake there was Alex Mortimer. Can't get the move done. Are both of these cars being caught by Matt Bell?
Yes, they are.
But he's
a little
16
way back.
seconds back, isn't he? But he will be with them relatively shortly, continuing this sort of speed. Michelin Giacomo Puccini, 6.7 seconds. That's pretty much as it was with the other drivers in.
Gap to watch in the lead battle at the moment is 6 seconds between Colin Noble and Duncan Tappy, with both cars having cleared that traffic. Further back, Monza is now getting onto terms with Jochen Fried for 3rd. That is 11 seconds back from Colin Noble. CD Sports make their stop for that 3-second stop and hold.
Got to make sure that this pit stop is the right time. Of course, it's only timed as the car is stationary rather than from pit in to pit out, which is your standard way of timing a pit stop. new fastest lap for car number 3. So that's a car personal best time for Laurence Heur, taking over from his teammate at the stops, Francois Kerman.
So at the moment he's quicker. He's actually not quite. He's quicker, sorry, than Duncan Tappy last time around, but not quite as quick. And a flying Colin Noble, who's put another half a second on Duncan Tappy. Great response from this pair. 35 minutes to go.
Marco Cencetti want to look at full 2 in 6th position. The other DKR engineering car, that's the all-green machine, as the battle now commences between the 3rd and 4th place machines, and 3 going wide through the Parabolica. So that's an easy pass in the end for Laurence Heur. Should be confirmed at the timing line at the end of this lap, and is.
That's now, so 11.3 seconds is the gap. 6 seconds first to second, a further 5.4 seconds to third. And then just behind, of course, Jochen Fried now drops back into 4th position. Through the first chicane comes the 3rd place car, Laurence Heur. He's now got clear air ahead of him for the first time in quite a while. What can he do with that? Can he start to make inroads in the leading pair?
Garrett Grist, the next car, behind the 43, but not on the lead lap. So, in a sense, Jochen Fried could allow that car to slip by, and the 96 car, sorry, the 90 car rather, which is not on the lead lap either, is it?
Yeah. Meanwhile, back on the way for 5th position, Adrien Trullier is beginning to fall into the clutches of the chasing Cencetti in the DKR number 5 car. So it's a further stop-and-go penalty, I'm afraid, for CD Sport. Remember, they came in for that stop and 3-second hold for a short pit stop, spinning the wheels at the end of the pit stop. I'm afraid he's going to see them down for another stop-and-go penalty.
Oh no. Yes, often it never rains but it pours with those penalties that start off with a niggly issue. Is charging at the inside, or at least attempting to, Jochen Fried. That wouldn't have been a move for a position, but this definitely was. The 43 car, Kia Racing, running a touch wide at the Parabolica. That opened the door then for Laurence Heur to slot through and into 3rd position. And these are moments that happened a little earlier on in the race, but it's been incident-packed stuff in the LMP3 category particularly.
Fastest lap of the race overall goes to the leading car. Colin Noble, a 1:46.058. Pulls out just a few more tenths, valuable tenths over the 2nd place car, and a second quicker that time around than 3rd place Laurence Heur.
Yep. So keeping a keen eye on the lap times being offered by both Noble and Tappy. That's the race victory, you sense, unless Laurence Heur can pull something amazing out of the fire. Jochen Fried, despite having cars overtake him over the last few laps, isn't losing positions here because they're all lapped cars. Adrien Trullier is the next car he needs to be worried about, 52 seconds further down the road, and with 33 minutes to go, a top 4 definitely possible here for Kia Racing of Denmark. The 43 crew still relatively new to the Michelin Lamont Cup. I have a feeling they did a Road to Le Mans event before getting involved.
They've been some-time entrants into the Michelin Lamont Cup. We've had a couple of races where they've done one-offs.
Yeah.
But very welcome full season edition this year.
Well, 14th place at Paul Ricard. If they can get 10 places better than that, just at one race on, that will be a fabulous result.
It does seem at the moment as if Jochen Fried is struggling a little for pace. We'll keep an eye on that, whether or not there's a problem with the car or just out of rhythm at the moment. Trullier at the moment pulling bits out of that lead, 4 seconds quicker last time around.
And the number 30 car, CD Sport, back in to serve another penalty, as we've said, for the spinning of the wheels. 71, Michelin still leading GT3 from this car, the number 8 machine of Giacomo Piccini. There's a gap of 8 seconds to Michelin, and Piccini just doing a 1:50.9, Michelin a 1:50.1. So last time around the gap extended, but it really is dependent on which cars you're catching at any one particular time, and whether they're in clumps of traffic, as so often it is the case around here at Monza.
He's pretty soon going to have to deal with traffic from the other direction because Garrett Grist is catching the GT leader. An interesting moment. Meanwhile, Colin Noble, another fastest lap of the race, and the first man in the 1:45s now, 1:45.992 from the Scot. He's 7.2 seconds ahead, and Duncan Tappy, whilst he's not catching Noble, is pulling away just a little from Laurence Heur. Those gaps are coming out. It's 14 seconds between the three now. It was 11 just 2 laps ago.
Side by side, GT3 versus LMP3 with the number 35 Krypton Motorsport Mercedes then having the inside line at King Seraglio and allowing through Marco Ciancetti for DKR and the green and black DKR Engineering Norma.
So on pace, what can be done in the last half an hour? Well, certainly there's question about who's going to finish fourth in this race. Pace is beginning to drop off from Jochen Fried in fourth. He's got quite a gap to Adrien Trullier. And Trullier is being caught by Alex Mortimer. 21 seconds that gap with 30 minutes to go. A little further back, Matt Bell, as always, has got his dander up. He's in the 47s. He's got a gaggle of cars ahead. Ciancetti and Talcanizza Jr. that are within range if he can maintain that pace. So the top 10 is not settled here.
Certainly not. Kevin Bol-Bassasson rejoining for CD Sport after a second penalty. And let's hope it can be a clean race from this point on then for the 10th placed LMP3 machine. Mikkel Mack is only 2.4 seconds behind that car now. Garrett Grist also trying to work his way towards the top 10 for United Autosports and bringing Wade Boyd with him, 2.6 between them.
About to say the three United Autosports cars are within 5 places, stretched from 9th down to 13th, and all making progress in terms of time right now. So this race got some shape, but there are gaps to be attacked, and there's plenty of guys quick enough in this race now to attack those gaps. Still around that half hour to go. No sign of that rain.
It's not so far. Still the blossom in the air confusing me for certain shots around the track, particularly the run down towards the Ascari chicane. Inside the final half an hour, Ross Gunn building a lead on Stefano Pizzucchi now as the Beechdene Aston has established itself into 4th position ahead of the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes in GT3. Roberto Pampanini taking over the number 7 Mercedes that Mauro Calamia drove in the opening stint.
The podium not out the question here for the Aston Martin. Maurizio Mediani's pace is just off a little, recovers it that time around, but there's only, what is that, 6-7 seconds between the 3rd placed 51 Ferrari and the 99 Aston Martin, albeit with the 39 Graf Racing Norma between the two. So that's not done yet either.
Marco Ciancetti making quick work there of Alexander Talcanizza Jr. to bag him 7th position. So that's the 5 Norma taking the spot that was earlier claimed by the AT Racing Ligier. 3 Normas then lead overall from the Joachim Fried JSP3. Then there's 3 more Normas. Trullier ahead of Mortimer and Ciancetti, and then Talcanizza Jr. and Matt Bell. But Matt is circulating much more quickly than the Belarusian ahead.
Yeah, Matt Bell looks like he's got the AT Racing car in his sights. Also, at current pace, I think Alex Mortimer is going to catch Adrien Trullier before the end of this race as well. So, places up for grabs. And then we get into the usually outrageous luck that falls somebody's way in the last 15-20 minutes of every single Michelin Lamont Cup race, as we saw the DKR 5 car there just power sliding through the exit of the curve.
Absolutely drifting Ciancetti through Lesmo 1.
Yeah, no points for Stahl, sadly, otherwise they've been storming up the order.
Fabulous stuff though, just shows how manoeuvrable these cars can be, and they can certainly be flung around with the confidence in the downforce.
Here's the squadron of United Autosports cars. They've both got past the GT leader. Sensible for Mikkel Mack to allow that to happen, I think. Garrett Grist is through ahead of Wayne Boyd. They're now up to 11th and 12th places overall. And what's their pace looking like? Well, with the traffic, drop back just a little. But at the moment, Boyd's pace is the better of the two. He can maintain that. It might well be the 11th place is doable for him, and they're both catching the 10th place CD Sport car.
Yes, so things concertinaing up in certain areas. There's still 15 seconds between the top 3. Laurence Heur not able to consistently lap the same speed as the 2 ahead. And last time around, well, 7/10 of a second taken out of Colin Noble's lead by Duncan Tappy, who is now setting himself to be in a bit of a rhythm. These team cars coming down the back straight. Yes, they are for Cool Racing. So the number 4 car ahead of 74. And it's also a battle for 13th position in class. So Nico Ronde in the number 4 ahead of the 74, which is now Victor Bludgeon, taking over from Maurice Smith. So Frenchman Bludgeon now at the wheel, and a little quicker it looks like than Ronde. Both Ligiers, you will note, with the Dayglow yellow mirrors on the leading car and the green on the one just tucked in behind. 26 minutes to go, and whatever's left at the end, of course, because the checkered flag will have to wait for the race leader to complete the next lap. As through the Curva Grande goes this inter-cool racing battle. Ciancetti's even faster again now in 7th place, so the number 5 DKR car going well. Alex Mortimer almost in his sight, taking a bit of seconds further up the road, and if he is able to overtake Mortimer, that might be just about as well as he can do, because it's a further 16 or so seconds ahead then for Trouillet.
That's Matt Bell going through and taking the position, 8th position now in the hands of United Autosport's 22 car, ahead of the AT Racing's number 90, Alexander Talkanidze Jr. gives best to the Flying Geordie. Chetty ahead has got the hurry-up call and is looking to do what he can. It's 6 seconds is the next gap for Matt Bell to play with. And just ahead of him is the leader.
Yes.
So is Matt Bell going to try and unlap himself here?
I think he'll certainly try it, knowing Matt, and see what happens. I mean, there's no hope of looping all the way around the very next lap with just 25 minutes to go, but you can break into the top 7, and Matt will be eager to do that. Very good lap last time around for Giacomo Piccini, still trying to hunt down Mikkel Mack, by the way, and the gap is 7.2 seconds.
Oh, trouble here for the second place car in GT. It's a drive-through penalty for causing a collision with car 11 at turn 1.
Car 11?
That was racing experience.
Yes.
Was that what caused the issue?
You have to think that's maybe why the wheel detached, because it finally broke loose or caused the issue at the second Lesmo. So maybe there was contact, although that's quite a bit further around the lap from turn 1.
That should not affect their race position, but it will drop them out of any chance of a battle for the win.
Well, I was just mentioning that gap, which was 6.2 seconds. It's actually extended now to 7.4, so maybe Piccini didn't have the speed anyway. Remember, Lucid Racing taking pole last time at Ricard. They couldn't convert that into a race win, looking much more like there's the opportunity now for Lucid Racing to take victory with Mikkel Mack at the wheel. However, on the horizon, there are some black clouds accumulating, and also some lightning in the sky too. Well, I told you there was a thunderstorm expected at some point this evening. A question of when it's going to arrive. As I say, it's fairly blustery out there, so the weather in the distance might arrive in the next 23 minutes. There could be a real sting in the tail, as in like the last 5 laps are affected by rain. We'll wait and see, but wet Michelin tyres certainly being prepared.
Fastest lap of the race this time goes to Laurence Heur. It's a 1:45.991. He's 8.5 seconds back from Duncan Tapp. He's been dropping back just a little. It had been 7 seconds first to second, 7 seconds second to third. So into the pit lane now comes the number 8 car for that drive-through. And that will drop the car into the clutches of the LMP3 cars behind, but I don't think we'll do enough damage to see Maurizio Mediani and Ross Gunn, who, by the way, is still closing in on Maurizio Mediani. This is, by the way, with thanks to Simon Strang at Aston Martin Racing, who's watching and feeding in information. This is the same car that races in British GT.
That's it. He's prepped,
prepped at Aston Martin Racing, as he tells me is Ross Gunn.
Indeed.
He's got his own servicing bay there.
Laurence Heur, you say, new fastest lap of the race, a whole 1,000th of a second quicker than Colin Noble's earlier effort. These are the margins we're talking about. As all of a sudden,
it goes really dark.
Monza looks like Spa last weekend, and you could be forgiven for thinking.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, from the images, I'd say it's comparable. We haven't yet got 4 degrees and snow, though.
What we need is we need the human barometer that is Louise Beckett, who felt every single 10th of a degree. I can tell you there.
I know. I was indoors throughout, so I couldn't possibly comment. Out of the second chicane goes the Ferrari, then that is... Has it done its drive-through? Yes, it's just been in and out again. Giacomo Piccini, and retaining second position. Mikkel Mack for Lucix Racing leading the way then, and now far more comfortably. However, 21 minutes to go. It's, well, black as ebony above certainly the first couple of corners. And the wind is whipping up as well, as you can tell from the Blossom on that run into Ascari. So headlights ablaze now, they have to be, for Giacomo Piccini, just so he can see the road in front of him.
What did I say about the last 20 minutes of every Michelin Lamont Cup race? Every single time. It always throws something of a spanner into it. So I expect a massive spanner any moment now. Hearing from Louise Beckett down in pit lane, it seems are prepping wet, so I'm hoping that's for just in case scenario. Meantime, Colin Noble still got 6.3 seconds to the good here. Is looking to put a lap on the 7th place car. This is Gianchetti in that 5D car engineering car. Matt Bell is closing on Gianchetti meanwhile for 7th position, and is not quite in the wheel tracks of Colin Noble. He's not that far behind. Clock's ticking down. We're just about to move through into 20 minutes dead to come. And Duncan Tappy meanwhile is again just pulling away from Lance Hurt.
Yep.
And just watching as well, that gap for fourth had been 55 seconds. It's now down to 39. Trillier on Creed, and what had been about 20 seconds back to Alex Mortimer is now down to under 12 and a half. So Mortimer is catching Trillier, and they're both catching Jochen Fried.
There's a great band of weather just to the northwest of us. There's no chance the rain's not going to hit Monza circuit at some point. It's just a question of whether it's going to be in the next 20 minutes, but you can barely see now the run down the main straight, and once the rain hits, it's going to stick here, I think, all evening till about 10 o'clock tonight, so it's not going to be a passing shower.
You can see look at the headlamps on the road now.
Yeah,
that's the key as to how dark this actually is. Sometimes TV cameras can do spooky things with daylight, but there's no mistaking those headlamps are shining brightly on the road surface. It's getting dark.
Gusty wind as well, which is bringing that weather towards us. Areas of blue earth sky in the distance, looking skyward from the second chicane.
And look at the Blossom now. That
it's
wind
incredible, isn't
up.
it? It's bits of debris almost in the air, but Louise Beckett reminds me that's not the snow that
that's
we saw
sleet.
last
She's
weekend.
not going to forgive the weather gods for doing that to her last week.
It's like a tornado suddenly whipped up. It's bringing leaves and it's bringing Blossom onto the racetrack as well. And us three Brits almost feel guilty that we brought the UK weather to Italy for today. It's going to be beautiful tomorrow.
Louise Beckett is rapidly getting a name in John's Racing for being the Jonah of weather. It's
18 minutes to go, and the teams are going to be counting the seconds here to ensure that they get home. The wind direction's going to be key here though as well. That will be affecting how these LMP3s are performing. They're entirely reliant on the aero wash over the car, and if it's coming in at a peculiar angle, particularly down the main straight, you will feel that. The cars don't weigh a great deal and will start to be moving around in a very uncomfortable way. Colin Noble out front, 5 seconds. That gap's coming down.
That's a bit of traffic last time around for Colin. It was a 1:49.1 to a 1:47.7. Just look and see exactly where he is in terms of. And now what you've got, of course, is when he's had to pass traffic, so do Duncan Tappy. Ahead of him, we've got Ross Gunn, who himself has got a bit of traffic to play with. That's not helped him in his battle with the Spirit of Race car. Still about 6.5 seconds ahead now. Maurizio Mediani is his target. We wait to see whether or not this is dark clouds and wind, or whether or not this is going to get very wintry very, very quickly.
Well, Noble is clear of a little bit of traffic, but he's got at least two, maybe three other slower cars ahead, one of which is the 51 Ferrari, on course for a podium as we speak, but Ross Gunn's got the gap down to 6.9 seconds now between Maurizio Mediani and the only Aston Martin in the field, the number 99 Beach D car. And yes, 99's been picked deliberately because it's got the ice cream advertising on it.
There's lots of numbers he could have picked. In fact, there are hundreds and thousands.
Moving on, towards the Ascari chicane. The Aston now tucked in behind the Lannon Racing machine, so that will not cause it a drama at all. And fourth position still for Ross Gunn, trying to eat away at the lead margin that Maurizio Mediani has. And this is like a night stint at Le Mans now. You can't tell the cars until they turn right at the Parabolica. It's just headlight before they arrive at that sweeping right-hander. So apologies if our car ID falls away very slightly.
It's only 5:45 in the evening, and it's remarkable. 5 minutes, and it's gone to the point where you're absolutely right. Looks like dusk. The 22 car, Matt Bell has pitted the car. So what's going on with the number 22 car?
Oh dear.
Now that certainly we didn't see that had a penalty of any description.
No,
so
I don't
Matt,
remember
we can
one.
only presume that Matt's got a problem.
And Tom Olsen brings the 14 RLRM Sport car back in. Well, that car's had real troubles, of course. As now we're getting word from Lou in the pit lane that it is starting to rain, and almost instantaneously we get a message on the screen. The track has legally been declared wet as well, which means you can use wet weather tyres. The rain light's on low mode, says Eduardo Freitas.
And that's the call. United Autosports have immediately responded to that. They think a lot of rain's coming. They've come in early before this pit lane gets frantically busy. They're going to try and get a jump on the rest of the crews here.
Okay, well,
that's what it's about. This pit lane, if everybody's in, is a nightmare. It's very, very tight indeed.
2 cars straight on at the second chicane. That's got to be a lack of grip. The 30 car, and who else went straight on there? Windscreen wipers.
It was the AT car.
Yes, of Alexander Taukanitsa Jr. So Kevin Bol-Bassasson, the first to blink, if you like, because he ran out of grip on the run into the second chicane, and actually following in sympathy, and that's very easily done. You know, you brake at the same point as the guy in front and then run off.
Here comes the number 4 Cool Racing car. That car is onto pit lane. This is the number 3. Windscreen wipers showing now on this car. Immediately the pace has gone off for the lead cars by 4-5 seconds on that lap alone.
So rain certainly on the start-finish straight. Is it affecting any other part of the lap? It will be affecting the back straight, no doubt, because the distance between the two
is very limited.
Indeed.
It's almost parallel, isn't it?
It is parallel, and the Parabolica links the two together. But
that's
it's
the clue.
Parabolica, yeah, that's to do with round things as well, isn't it?
Comes
the paddock separates both straights, basically. That's the 3 in from third place.
That's Lance Hurt.
So to complete now the weather systems that we've had in
ACO we saw before.
Yes, indeed, of ACO racing, we've now got thunder. Did you have any thunder at Spa last weekend?
No thunder.
So you can tick that one off your little
so Louisa's
chart.
got her observer's book of weather down there. She's ticking those off rapidly. Not many left now. Plague of frogs, I think, is next.
Yeah, locusts. So rain. Is rain coming down on that? Yeah, the windscreen wipers are very much on intermediate or indeed low setting, high setting now for the 51 Ferrari, which is limping its way. The problem is there's no grip on the track.
Look at the gap. The gap is next to nothing. It's come down from 6. The lead gap is down to 3 seconds.
So 2 to 25, but Duncan Tappy is on a road that is not only gripless because of the amount of blossom and leaves that have worked their way from the wooded areas of Monza, but also now the rain on top of that, which is a horrible combination.
Around under power. And
these are not nice conditions now for these races. There's certainly a racing line and 2 wheel tracks to keep to. How do you know where to brake though, compared to a lap before?
This is a pressure moment, isn't it, for a leading car?
12.5 minutes to go. Lightning again in the air.
Oh,
visibility a real issue. Colin Noble all over the road, and he is a high talent in the LMP3s. Again, these prototypes, if they're not up to the right speed, are going to suffer with zero grip.
Yellow flag turn 7. In comes the 43 car from 4th. 9 Graf car is in. The 74 Cool Racing car is in. The 8 Kessel Racing car is the first of the major runners in the GT class to decide that it's time for wet weather tyres. In comes the 7 from Scuderia Villorba Corsa. It's the 30 car off the road.
Both leaders coming in, and
Nose
that's
to
a
tail.
sensible move to me. But Duncan Tappy right with Colin Noble now, and these are not time-limited stops. You do them as quick as you can.
Battle of the pit stop. Battle of the crews right now.
This is the race win, right here.
Looking where Lawrence Herr is, he's just come through sector 1.
Yeah.
With wet weather tyres on, could he take this right at the end? The
So
Nielsen Racing
tight.
crew go to work. No, they've
They
got
have
to push
to
the car
reverse
back.
it first of all as well. Oh dear me. So the car's got to go up on the jacks. Are the wheels ready? Also Grain Market Racing, which is the same team, isn't it, Nielsen?
It is. Remember, it doesn't look as if they have the same kind of delay. No delay here.
And there's going to be a full course yellow as well. Now. It's out now.
Now, could this fall the way of Lance Hur? I think it's going to, you know.
So
Or will it? Actually, no, this will help them because he can't catch them at full speed. You can now see how heavily the rain is falling.
Yeah. When's the
Lannon,
7 car
I think, are
being
away.
released?
I think Lannon have got this.
They are surely away first. Duncan Tappy needing to be careful on the concrete, which is far more
He's
slippery than
pit
the
out.
asphalt.
Lawrence Hur has not completed the lap. Lannon Racing are out and on track. Where is the Nielsen Racing car? I think it's there, just in the wheel tracks of the Lannon Racing car.
So how long's the full course yellow going to be? Is this...
No, it's still there. Still there for the Nielsen Racing car.
They can't get it going, or that it wasn't in... Well, we know it wasn't in position to start with. The Grain Market Racing car is left, and
Now it
now the
goes.
2 goes.
Oh, that's bitter stuff. But Lawrence Hur still hasn't come through.
No.
So Duncan Tappy leads the race now. Colin Noble, I think, will emerge in second. But the big winner here is Alex Mortimer.
Yes.
Up to
Yes.
4th position by the look of things.
Well, where is Alex Mortimer going to rejoin? And the DKR car's only over the line now. I think the Grain Market car's ahead on the road and possibly into 3rd position. No, it's a lap down, is it? Yeah, okay.
Is
Compared to, well, being displayed at the moment.
No,
it's all about the order that they go through the first sector, isn't it?
Next timing, Beam, I'm not convinced that's quite right. But we'll have a look. Another big winner, by the way, Wayne Boyd, up to 6th place with United Autosports.
Well, Lawrence Hur has now crossed the line to complete 56 laps. The question is, if Alex Mortimer is ahead on the road, will that car then complete 56 laps before Hur has a chance to?
31 seconds longer in the pits from Nielsen Racing than the Lannon Racing team. And part of that was having to reposition the car.
Yeah.
But that was dramatic stuff. I wish I hadn't said that about the last 20 minutes now.
The full course yellow is out for the incident at turn 7, by the way, and everybody being asked now to stay to the right.
That's to recover the 30 car.
Yes.
But,
turn 7 being the second of the Lesmo corners.
and the question is, how bad are these conditions, and will this race go back to green?
Well, it's treacherous out there now,
It's not
as
nice.
predicted, and this storm was always going to hit at some point during Saturday. Just a question of whether it would affect the whole of the Michelin Lamont Cup race or just the tail end. And the final 21 minutes heavily affected by the weather, and it's now questionable whether we can go back to green flag running.
Well, could that have been the most important pit stop for Lannon Racing?
Yeah, well, it will be a second win of the year if they can do it, and a big championship lead to take to the 2 one-hour races that will take place at Le Mans, of course.
Let's keep an eye here at anything else that's been shaken up. We'll have to wait until these cars have completed a full lap. I'm not going to say racing lap because we're at full course yellow speeds, of course. But I think you're right, and I think is Alex Mortimer a lap down though?
It's very difficult to... Well, he's going to complete lap 56 next time around. However, already started lap 57 is Lawrence Hur. So I can't see a way of Mortimer getting back ahead now of Hur and making it out of podium. It's really difficult to read, and we will know in
It's
the
fair
next
to say though
7.5
as well
minutes.
that Alex Mortimer spent longer on pit lane. He's unlikely to have picked up.
Yes, yes. But it all depends on where...
We're going back green flag running in just
Wow.
under a minute, and the
Goodness
rain
me.
is pouring down now.
Well, rather them than us, I have to say. And
Bouncing.
yeah, pounding off the concreted area of the Monza pit lane. Big grins from Mikey Benham. He's happy that he's not in the car right now, I assure you of that. He'd done his job. Big smiles from him at the end of the Ricard race, which was a race win for Lannon. They're in a cracking position now. The race lead is labelled as 26 seconds. It's not that, of course, when we're back to racing speed. It will come down significantly.
Yeah, once again, Louise Beckett gets closer to nature than we are.
And the number 30 car returning to the pit lane as well.
That was the immediate reason for the caution coming out with some
Green,
recovery.
green,
We're back to
green.
green, and what is this going to do to the overall order? Lannan Racing, where are they? We'll wait till they cross the line. Spin for the EB Motors car.
Already, and that is Alessandro Baccani, who is
Yellow flag turn 10.
highly experienced. He's the bronze-graded driver in that field, along with Paolo Venarossi, but a moment there.
It is 13 seconds, the gap, with traffic between the two cars. 11 seconds back to Laurent Heur. And you're right, the fourth place Alex Mortimer is a lap down.
So that confirms our podium places. Just really, what order they finish in, assuming they can keep it on the straight and narrow in the next 6 minutes, of course.
Indeed.
So Mortimer is fourth. Fifth position is the Cencetti car, DKR Engineering. Then it's Wayne Boyd, the best of the United Autosports car. So he's managed to leapfrog Matt Bell.
I think the Beechstein AMR car may.
Yes.
Just wait to see. It just need to clear the next timing beam because the Spitter race car was late out the pits.
Yes.
I think that might be enough for Ross Gunn to be into a podium position here.
Maurizio Mediani, well, did a minute and 32 seconds. I think he was late into the pits. It was a decent stop. But
no, he's still ahead. He's still ahead.
Okay, well, what's the distance? 15.3 seconds? Is that a real margin? We'll wait for them to come through at the end of this lap, which is more telling.
Ross must have lost time behind. He must have lost time in that weather because he was 6.5 seconds behind and he did a quicker pit stop.
Horrible conditions for Duncan Tappy. He caught the curb way more than he wanted to through the first part of Ascari, and now the tension down at Lannan Racing. They are in the perfect position here to take the race win. They're just not sure whether the car's going to appear at the end of every lap, but it is churning up water left, right and centre. The risk of aquaplaning here is present at every corner. And how on earth you follow a GT3 car there, because I mean the visibility is zero anyway.
So the lap at the moment, 2:07 is the lap. That's 22 seconds off the fastest lap of the race. That's the difference in these conditions. I'm amazed, frankly, he's managing to maintain that pace.
Can't get by the GT3. Might be able to do it in the braking area, but careful not to run into the side of the number 50 Ferrari, who sensibly checked up nice and early. That was Ollie Hancock.
Lead gap is going out, and Colin Noble is being caught by Laurent Heur here, and caught quickly.
Yeah. 2.1 seconds now for the DKR Engineering car, which is chasing the Nielsen Racing machine. What else is happening further down the order? Close margins between Alexander Taukanicci Jr. and Matt Bell. That's Matt Bell getting ahead, in fact, of the Belarusian. So Matt Bell charging his way through, just on a 2:08. Goodness me.
Good grief.
That's way quicker than most of the cars around. So Matt Bell looking for a podium result, ideally. Not sure he'll get it, but he may get somewhere in the top 6 is potentially on offer for that car. The 71 Ferrari leading GT3. Mikkel Mack doing a 2:10 in these conditions is mightily impressive as well. Another couple of flashes of lightning. 3 minutes to go.
Change for second place. Colin Noble drops back behind Laurent Heur. I wonder whether or not this is anything to do with the setup they put on these cars, with the possibility of weather.
Yes.
It does seem at the moment as if Colin Noble is really struggling in these conditions.
Well, the next thing he needs to do, keep it neat and tidy. There's no risk of losing third position because the rest of the field are a clear lap behind race leader Duncan Tappy, but this will be hugely frustrating for Colin Noble and teammate Tony
Big
Wells.
flash of lightning there as well, under 3 minutes to go on the clock.
But bear in mind, the 2 car came in from the lead of the race when they made the pit stop. They did not have a good pit stop, and now the car is losing places on track.
And the 88 spun again, by the look of it, a slow, certainly, in the same place as the last lap around.
Yellow flag's briefly shown, and that's probably a spin and continued then for 88 potentially. 2.25 minutes to go. Duncan Tappy leading the second race of the year in the Michelin Lamont Cup by 20 seconds. 7.7 the gap from Laurent Heur back to Colin Noble in third.
Just looking at the trap speeds as they came through last time, the lead car 177 kilometres an hour. Colin Noble 131. Has he got a problem?
The 23 car of Garrett Grist with a heck of a moment that time as well as they reached the Parabolica. Well off the racing line for the Lannan Racing car of Duncan Tappy then, and it's almost walking speed through the chicane.
Remember, it's the end of the clock will count down and 1 lap.
Yes.
Correct? So this is penultimate lap for Duncan Tappy by the look of things at this pace.
Yeah. Well over 2 minutes, so,
Close.
I think this might be the last lap, because there's no additional lap. It will be checkered flag just as soon as the clock reads 0.
This is terrible conditions now.
But you'd almost be wise to back things off here to ensure that this is the last lap of the race. He's got 16.6 seconds as a margin over Laurence Heur.
Heur was 6 seconds quicker last lap.
Yeah.
He can't back off that much.
Tremendous pace from Laurence Heur, the German driver, sharing with Francois Kerman. And this could be yet another win for the DKR Engineering car.
Wayne Boyd, by the way, is catching Alex Mortimer and catching him very rapidly indeed. 4th place could be going the way of Wayne Boyd here.
Yeah, what about Matt Bell doing 2:25 that time around, but Boyd was way quicker. There was a spin that time at Ascari. That was for the 74 Cool Racing machine. And Victor Bludgeon still at the wheel of that car. As again, braking to the Ascari chicane, being shown yellow flags, I think. Yeah, the yellow flags are being, or they're just being readied for the marshals just as soon as the next spinner happens at Ascari. They can be quick to react. This is the last lap, without a doubt. We've got 12 seconds to go.
Something very odd about the pace of Noble in 3rd position. 54 seconds, 10 seconds off the leader's pace now in one sector.
Right then, checkered flag is being prepared because the clock now reads 0.
He's off.
He's off the track, but I think that's more by design than an accident as such, or a mistake from Duncan Tappy. Knows that the wet track is far less the higher up the road you go, right round the high side then of the Parabolica, and this will be a hardly fought.
No, it's a white.
The checkered flag, not a white flag. You don't get that.
Not like a white flag.
No, definitely checkered flag for Duncan Tappy and the Lannon Racing car. That's 2 wins out of 2. And how different a win can you possibly have from Paul Ricard a month ago? Phenomenal stuff. And
stunning.
Obviously doing the hard work in the opening stint. There's Lannon Racing's reaction. The hard work being done by Mikey Benham in the dry. But what about Duncan Tappy's efforts there to maintain a 17-second gap in the end over a hard-charging Laurence Heur? Colin Noble will be kicking himself, but still a podium result in these conditions is still something to be lauded, I would argue. Alex Mortimer does finish a lap off the ultimate pace for Grain Market Racing, but I reckon that's the best result of the year so far for the number 20 car, and Marco Cencetti for DKR Engineering makes it 2 DKR cars in the top 5. The GT3 winner is crossing the line now, and it's Lusic Racing taking victory. They couldn't manage that in the south of France last month, but they do back up a decent performance in qualifying with a pole position from Fabien Laverne, and Laverne and Mikkel Mack hook up together to take a first win in this particular championship.
Mortimer, meanwhile, did hold off the challenge from not Wayne Boyd eventually, but Cencetti, who came back and overtook Wayne Boyd on that last lap. So Boyd didn't get 4th, dropped to 6th. DKR recovered to 5th. Grain Market Racing get a 4th place finish with Alex Mortimer. And the Beechdean AMR car didn't make the podium, explained, by the way, by the fact that we're absolutely right in terms of the timing. He stopped when the race was still green. So most of his stop was served on the green.
Yes. And then the full course yellow
then
kicks
the full
in.
course yellow kicked in.
And everybody else going around at, sort of a third of racing speed at 80 kilometres per hour, which is the very keenly observed speed limit during the full course yellows. Far better to pit during that, but Ross Gunn wasn't to know that was just around the corner. So just missing out on a podium. It's a good result nevertheless for Beechdean AMR. The order then in GT3, top 3, all Ferraris. Lusic, Kessel and Spirit of Race, and the 51 Ferrari of Maurizio Mediani is about to cross the line. In fact, there are 2 more cars approaching the Parabolica right now. You'll be hard pushed to see them through the gloom, but 51 will bag a podium courtesy of Maurizio Mediani's, again, epic drive in these horrendous conditions, along with Christoph Ulrich, who did the opening stint.
Astonishing transition from, well, basically a late spring day here at Monza to something that wouldn't look out of place on a bad day at Fuji.
True enough. The Lannon Racing liveried umbrella is now protecting Mikey Benham, along with team representative as they work their way down the pit lane, wrong way, on foot though.
That's Graham Johnson, the team principal at Lannan Racing.
And grins, I'm sure, as they welcome Duncan Tappy.
Mikey Benham on the left, and the Silver Fox, it is Graham Johnson on the right, and no doubt elated, if slightly wide-eyed, Mikey Benham. Duncan Tappy pulls in.
Yes, indeed, and credit to the Michelin tyres as well for keeping these cars.
If you look at Bibendum there, no tread there at all. It's completely slick, Bibendum.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
Amazing in these conditions.
No brolly either. He's made of stern stuff. And I mean, the only thing touching the ground for these cars are those 4 Michelin tyres, and clearing the water incredibly well. That grooved pattern designed specifically for heavy weather, but even this might test the tyre designers at the French manufacturer. Duncan Tappy then out of the warm and dry environment of his Norma, out into the wet, but he will not care a jot. So happy with that. A couple of fist punches of the air then, and in a moment or two Mikey Bennett will arrive, probably launching himself over the Michelin Lamont Cup barriers to clatter into Duncan Tappy. If the Paul Ricard celebration was anything to go by, well, here's one of that blue barrier is going to go for a Burton in a minute, without a doubt, and they're so happy with Duncan's performance.
Well, what a turnaround that was. That looked, for all the world, if the weather had held, like a brilliantly controlled run at the front from Colin Noble and the number 2 Nielsen Racing squad. Lawrence Hurt couldn't catch Duncan Tappy, and Duncan Tappy couldn't catch Colin Noble. The rain came down and it all changed, and it changed very rapidly indeed. Colin Noble just went backwards there. I think there's probably an explanation for that we've not yet heard, but great stuff. Controlled drive from Duncan Tappy to get that position and to bring that thing home in just terrible conditions at the end there.
This actually repeats exactly the same top 3 that we had in LMP3 at Ricard.
Did it really?
Yeah, 25 from 3 from 2, so they'll all be within the hunt as far as the championship is concerned, going to the 1-hour races at Le Mans week, but it's very definitely an extension of the championship lead for Lannan Racing. And this victory for Lucich Racing tightens things up as far as the championship is concerned in the GT3 category, because Pacini and Pianazzola finishing second on the road despite a late drive-through penalty they had to serve. They stayed second, and Cedric Mézard and Fabien Leverne, who scored a 3rd place finish last month, making it a win. So very tight in the championship now.
Michael Mack and Fabien Laverne.
What did I say?
Cedric Mézard, but don't worry.
Cedric Mézard, fair enough. Thank you.
But Lucich Racing, what an introduction they've had to ACO Rules Racing this year. Featured the front end of this everywhere so far, and it's clearing again. Although it's tipping it down.
The main straight looks like a lake.
It does. I think you could sail down there.
It would be easier, certainly, as you head towards the Rettifilio. I'm reliably informed that tomorrow is going to be a beautiful summer's day.
Lovely.
Can't see that happening right now, I have to admit, but we'll wait and see what tonight brings as we get some much-needed reaction from the boys at Lannan with Lou.
It's getting very cosy down here because we're all under the umbrella. Oh, well done. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was another eventful race. Could have done, I mean, like the forecast has been terrible for today all week, hasn't it? And then when it was kind of just brightening up just before we were going out, like, okay, well, maybe we're going to get away with it. But to have this, you know, within, 15 minutes towards the end of the race, it just throws a bit of a spanner in it. At the time, it looked like we were going to be second behind the Nielsen boys. They've been quick all weekend. They've done a magic job this weekend. So, you know, but fair play to our pit crew. They won us the race today. They turned our car around in an incredibly quick time, all 4 wheels. Unbelievable job they did. And so this wins for them without a doubt.
Duncan, that was a surprise at the end. Mike put in a good run as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, it's a team effort, you know. Mike drove the first hour, and you know he brought it. You know, well, how can I say? It was an incredible drive. You know, there was a lot going on, no mistakes, and then I really just had to keep it on the black stuff. And then at the end, anything could happen. But
It wasn't so easy, was it?
No, I've never had such a slow last lap to a race. But the boys gave me some information on the second to last lap. I pulled out 6 seconds or something, so I was like, okay, I need to calm this down a bit, and then just rolled round for the last lap. But yeah, the boys have really worked hard. We had a tough day yesterday. We had to make a change to the car, and we missed pretty much all of the bronze session. So it was all a bit doom and gloom yesterday. But we stayed positive, and we just did what we needed to do.
It's going to be a fun podium in this, isn't it? I'm going to let you get up there.
It's a fun podium. Who gets in? Monza, look at that. Let's go.
Thanks very much. Well done.
Hi, George. Hi, Carl.
Well done to Duncan Tappy and to Mikey Benham, and I'm pretty sure the podium, which is of course right above the pit lane and the main straight, is metal floored, so I'm going to be careful on that in these weather conditions. 60 laps done. Lannon Racing take the victory then by 17.8 seconds, and Duncan Tappy doing the sensible thing, backing things off, winning from DKR Engineering and the Nielsen Racing machine. GT3, Lucy Racing with the first victory of the year in the Michelin Lamont Cup from Kessel Racing and Spirit of Race. It's Ferrari here in northern Italy, but well done to Aston Martin for finishing in 4th position. So let's hear from the two that take the victory for Lusick.
A great drive from Lusick, from both the drivers. Well done in these conditions as well.
Thank you very much. Luckily for me, Fabian made a very good start and just made a very good gap for me. I jumped in the car and in the drive we controlled the race, but then the weather changed. So it was really, really interesting. Let me say it like that.
And Fabian, yes, you put in another great performance.
Yeah, thank you. I could make a good stint, I think, and Michael made a great job also, because in the end it was crazy, and just to keep the car on the road it was difficult. So yeah, he made an amazing job for sure.
Okay, well done. Enjoy your podium.
Thank you.
Michael Mack, first of all, Fabian Laverne, second to speak to Lou Beckett, the hooded Lou Beckett.
Yeah, hooded Beckett now.
She wouldn't be allowed in any shopping centres dressed like that, would she? So let's have a little look back then on the highlights. There were many of the second race of the year for the Michelin Lamont Cup, and this is hardly the same race. Surely not. We started in completely dry conditions. It was beautiful, in fact, and still a little bit of warmth in the air. Amazing start to the race. Cars as wide as you can get them on the funnel down into that chicane, and they threaded their way through safely. We had 1 or 2 spinners on the second lap. In fact, not just spinners, there were contact as well, certainly for the 54 Mercedes and the number 14 RLR M Sports prototype, just sneaking through shot there. Up the inside then, an early move from Mikey Benham. That was on the damaged number 39 car of Adrian Schiller. He was nursing some damage to the front right corner of his prototype for much of the stint, and Graf couldn't do an awful lot about repairing that midway through the race. This was a moment between Mike Gwash, who ran into the back, managed to tag the rear of the Sergio Pianezzola Ferrari, which did continue and made second place eventually. Big damage though for the Christian and Tom Olsen RLR car, which was repaired in race, but a significant delay was the result. That was John Schaumann going straight on down the escape route at the Rettifilo chicane. He was able to rejoin. Pit stops began at half distance, and a very, very busy pit lane here. A spin for another one of the Graf cars, the number 9 machine, swapping ends with very little warning for Eric Trier. His son would take over come the pit stops. There was a full course yellow to recover the wheelless Racing Engineering car, missing its rear left wheel. We wonder whether after some contact, in fact, at the start of that lap. An overtake for the race lead. Colin Noble on the 43 of the second driver in that car, Joachim Fried, who qualified so well earlier on today. Fried then making a mistake at turn 1, going straight on, and that meant that the Lannon car was able to bag a place at this point, being driven by Duncan Tappy. Also a great run again for the DKR Engineering machine of Laurence Heur, overtaking 1 or 2 cars at the Parabolica. And then the clouds began to circle and the sky became very, very dark indeed, bringing rain and heavy rain, also wind, thunder and lightning, the full shebang. And that all of a sudden just transformed the racetrack in a matter of 5 minutes. So tough for the drivers that were in for the second stint to work out where the grippy parts of the track remain. There basically weren't any, and the risk of aquaplaning was at every single corner. So credit certainly due to Duncan Tappy for getting the Lannon Racing car home as the race winner, and to Mikkel Mack for Lucich Racing. We will see each of those guys, of course, on the podium in a moment or two. But there are the Lucich guys after a tremendous run from Fabien Leverne and Mikkel Mack, and they will be close, if not taking the championship lead heading to Le Mans. We'll get confirmation of the points positions in a moment or two. But Lannon Racing's duo of Mikey Benham and Duncan Tappy standing on the top step of the podium. Let's hear the national anthem. Lannon Racing victorious for the second time this year. They will have a significant championship lead then heading to Le Mans next month. But well done to DKR Engineering, to Francois Kerman, who started the car from the outside of the second row, and Laurence Heur, who took over and at one point maybe threatened to catch up with Duncan Tappy, although we've subsequently learnt that Tappy reined in the pace significantly. And a thought for the guys at Nielsen Racing, because Tony Wells and Colin Noble were in a cracking position and they're rather straight faces on the third step.
I think Colin Noble's face tells the story, doesn't it? He had that one on pace in the dry, and I'm keen to hear from Colin exactly why his pace fell off as badly as it did, because that was not a fighting drive at the end. That means either was something about the setup, the tyres, or he was carrying a problem at the end of that race.
A face like thunder to match the weather that we've just experienced. But, as if the drivers weren't wet enough already, a chance now to spray several bottles of champagne. The hoods are up below, but this is already a rather slippery podium, made a bit more slippery as a result of that. But highly delighted are the Lannon guys. Duncan Tappy's still not got the cork out. Might be wise to keep that for later on tonight. No, he's going to go against my better advice and fully douse teammate Mikey Benham. What a cracking start to their season, and we know Amazing. They go well at Le Mans with a victory last year there.
Absolutely, and well, looking certainly like title challengers, aren't they? Indeed, all these three teams are looking like title challengers. That's the final classification, Johnny Palmer.
Yep, 17.8 seconds is the margin. So tricky just to keep the car, though, on the track. So we probably shouldn't pay too much attention to the gaps between them. But Lannon Racing winners, crucially, ahead of DKR and Nielsen. Grain Market Racing make it into the top four, ahead of the other DKR car of Marco Ciancetti, together with teammate Marcello Marattiotto. Sixth place for United Autosports, and the rest of the LMP3 cars displayed there. So these are the points, and it is an extension of the championship lead for Lannon. 50 points up already after 2 wins. DKR the number 3 on 37. 7 points back Nielsen Racing, that's Tony Wells and Colin Noble. And then CD Sports, who sadly had to come in for a number of penalties, including calling the pit stop that they needed to take much shorter than it needed to be.
So,
and here are the drivers' points.
Absolutely similar picture. It's the top three of the championship are pulling out a real gap now. They're the three teams that seem to be in real contention. I think I'm hearing from Louise Beckett there was a problem with the starter motor on the Nielsen Racing car.
But the wet weather conditions may not have helped that, of course, as well. Water in the electrics is often an issue with a road car, so whether the water has crept into areas to affect that. Of course, it wasn't ideal anyway, because the Grain Market car, the sister Nielsen car, was in pit stall. Colin had to pull across the nose, then be wheeled backwards, and they could only then start the work, i.e. changing the tyres, after that. The podium for the GTs then, and first of all in third position for Spirit of Race, that's the number 51 car. It's Maurizio Mediani and Christoph Ulrich.
Remember, that car fell all the way to the back of the field at the start of the race after the issue right at the start.
Yes.
Second place for the Kessel Racing number 8 crew, Giacomo Piccini and Sergio Pinazzola. But well, we've already spoken with Louise Beckett. Oh dear, mind that trophy. Lucich Racing, great result once again. Mikkel Mack and Fabien Leverne.
So Ferraris first, second and third, but not an Italian flag anywhere to be seen. They're all Swiss squads, Lussich, Kessel and Spirit of Race, although lots of AF Corsa and Italian mechanics therefore working at Lussich and at Spirit of Race. And the trophies are held aloft then for Christoph Ulrich, together with his teammate Maurizio Mediani, who was at the wheel towards the end, and we thought maybe catchable by Roscoe. In the end, though, that pit stop under green for the Beech Dean Aston was costly. Second place trophies to Pacini and to Pianazzola. And now the Lussich guys will group together for the publicity shots. And Lussich Racing, certainly with a chance of taking a good victory in ELMS tomorrow. They've stamped their authority as well this weekend on the Michelin Lamont Cup after second place at Paul Ricard. It's a win this weekend at Monza, and the reverse results for the Kessel Racing crew.
Another 2 hours of real entertainment and drama again in the last 20 minutes of Michelin Lamont Cup race, this time provided by the gods above, and just simply terrible weather that changed everything for the overall race order.
44 seconds the winning margin in the end then for the Lussich duo, ahead of Kessel Racing, the defending champions, Giacomo Pacini and Sergio Pianazzola. Spirit of Race third, Beech Dean Aston Martin fourth, ahead of the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes, the other Kessel Racing Ferrari number 50, and then the Scuderia Viorba Corsa cars, one of each, remember, a Mercedes and the Lamborghini Huracan, finishing 7th and 8th, ahead of the Ebby Motors Porsche and the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes, not classified after that only completed one racing lap. So tight at the top of the championship, 3 points in it between Kessel Racing 44 and Lussich Racing 41. And it's all about those two at the moment. Beech Dean sneaking into third in the championship, courtesy of that fourth place finish, ahead of Spirit of Race podium finishers today.
Crucially though, the third place and fourth place teams within 25 points. So a non-finish for either of the top two teams could change everything.
And remember, half points on offer during the Le Mans races. Thursday morning, hour-long race, and a Saturday edition of that as well. Pacini and Pianazzola lead then the Drivers' Championship, again by 3 points over Fabian Laverne and Mikkel Mack. Andrew Howden, Ross Gunnar third, ahead of Christoph Ulrich and Maurizio Mediani. And the second place finishers at Ricard, Dexter Muller and Yannick Mettler fall to fifth in the championship, ahead of Cedric Mezar and Stevie S. They're the Lamborghini Huracan drivers. John Hartshorn and Ollie Hancock in the number 50 Ferrari will be 7th in the championship, heading to rounds 3 and 4. And I think you're right in the rain starting to ease a little bit, but this rain set in for the rest of this evening, which is going to mean the off-track areas for tomorrow's European Le Mans Series race could be very treacherous indeed. We've been delivered a very entertaining 2 hours then for round 2 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Plenty more racing to come this year with rounds at Barcelona, Spa and the Algarve, but it's to Circuit de la Sarthe we travel next with the Road to Le Mans events on Thursday and Saturday of the big race weekend. My thanks to Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com for helping me through that. So many different things that we needed to stay on top of, but congratulations to Lussich Racing with the first win in this championship, and to Lannon Racing, who keep their championship hunt well on track as the rain pounded down. Duncan Tappy and Mikey Benham will be going for a well-deserved cup of coffee now to try and heat up. Not quite the weather you expect coming to Italy. It'll be much more like it tomorrow, though, for the ELMS. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to be around for tomorrow's ELMS race, which is a 12 midday local start. Bye-bye for now.